Close the doors of your mind. Close the gates of your mind. Close the gates of your palace, your ba'ith, your ahal, your ohel, your tent, your mishkan, your mikdash, your Aydahchay, your body, your sentient self that you dwell inside. And bring your body to center. Bring your thoughts to center. Bring your makashaba, your yetzer, your imaginations and your thoughts in your body, with your yad and your kaf and your regal, in the center of your mind, in the center of your body and your shore, and bring yourself to connection with Yahuwah Elohim in the highest Shamayim. For today is a day of freedom. Today is a day that Yahuwah has given to us in another Shabath, that we may cease from our labors, our own selfish self, our own selfish ways, and our own selfish thought, and to fix our mind on Him on His 364-day cycle in the movements of the 7 celestial circles. For today we acknowledge the one who made all the heart of the earth, all in the heart, the rivers and streams on the surface of the earth, under the earth, and the rivers and streams that flow from His throne, the one that allows and washes us and cleanses us from all unrighteousness, Yahuwah Elohim. So as we move forward in His truth, we move forward in His love, we move forward in His Bina Hakmada'ah, His understanding. And we understand that it is He who allows us to live and to breathe and to have consciousness in the world. But even as the world is moving towards the longest day, and as we move forward in the truth of Yahuwah Elohim. Right, so this is the second Yom, second day of the second month. Right, Shani Kudash, right, the month of Zip, what they call Zau, or Zaud, or Ziv, how they would say. And we look at all these things, these transitions of time, and we went from the longest day, we're going toward the longest day, but understanding we just left Kagmatsa, and knowing that we are in a time sequence, and that time sequence has a certain type of pattern that comes with it. And one has to understand it in its totality, from the Aleph to the 2. Or if you don't, just like today is the second month, which is the second letter of the alphabet, which is portal, which is house, ba'ith, temple, which is dwelling place, which is mishkan, mikdash, which is a Aydahchay, which is a tent, a hell, a hall, a tent, a door. Right? You look at a door, a doorway. Right? That's why I say close the doors of your mind and your tent. But this is the second month. This is the second letter of the alphabet. But if we look at all these things, we got to understand it on the level we need to understand it. Right? So this is the 16th day since what? The 16th day of Aydah on Kagmatsa, when Yahusha rose from the grave. Right? We're 16 days in since the time that He rose from the grave. And we're 15 days in from the time that He appeared to His disciples and He showed Himself with many fallible proofs, right? When he finally appeared to them on the 4th day of Kagmatsa. Right, so this is Acts chapter 1 through 4. And it says, in the first book, O Theophilus, I have dealt with all that Yahusha began to do and teach, until the day when He was taken up, after He had given commands through the Kudash Ruach to the Shalakim, whom He had chosen. Right, so Yahuwah chose these Shalakim. He presented Himself alive after His suffering by many proofs, appearing to them 40 days. Right, so 40 days after His suffering. Right, so we're about 15 days in through today, from that 4th day that He appeared. Right, 16 days since He's risen. And you look at all these things that takes place. So He was here for 40 days, speaking about the Malkuth of Yahuwah. What do you mean speaking about the Malkuth of Yahuwah? Right? Because the kingdom of Malkuth of Elohim comes not with observation, not with something you're going to see. For the Malkuth is within you. It's inside of you. So therefore, He was talking about the inward man. He was talking about the inward man the whole time. And guess what? And while staying with them, He ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem. So He's literally telling them to stay in Jerusalem. Don't leave. Now people want to leave and go do your own thing for 40 days. He's telling you don't go nowhere. He was there for 40 days. He was telling them to stay there. Stay around, because there's something that's getting ready to happen to you. A transformation within yourself. And if you leave now, that's how we talked about from the first day of the month, always the 16th day to the 25th day. Then we're now in the second month. And now you're starting to understand, He's saying, don't go nowhere, because you ain't finished yet. The very same thing, right? Just like we just left, right? but to wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, you heard from me. Why? Because we read in Deuteronomy chapter 18. The inheritance of the Kohanim is Yahuwah and his promises. So he's literally saying, you have heard from me. He says, but wait for the promise of the Father. Abba. Wait. You know, some people can't wait. Right? They can't wait. For you cannot immerse with Ma'im, right? Because that's what you cannot immerse with Ma'im, right? Because, you know, that's what everybody gets immersed in Ma'im, right? Water. But you will be immersed with the Qahalath Ruach not many days from now. How many days from now? He said you're going to be immersed with the Qahalath Ruach not many days from now. Why? We're on the 50-day count. We're on the 50-day count, right? This is the first Shabbat, the 7-week count. And you know, people say, I don't need to know this. But this is a part of your understanding. If you don't know it, then you're going to understand the inward man. Because your Arun has to have a cup of wrath on top. And then you got to put the Aydah inside of it. You got to put the testimony inside of it. And the only way you're going to fill it up, how you going to fill it up? You just found out Yahushua rose on the 4th day, right? He appeared to the disciples. It ain't been 15 days yet, so how are you able to close up your ark and able to carry it now? You're able to bear it now? You're already able to just take this thing and start running with it and start doing it. No, you're not ready to do it. You're not ready. Why? Because he still has to get you prepared to carry it. But you will be immersed with the Qahalath Ruach not many days from now, right? Right, so Mashali Proverbs 30 and 12. Because he said, you cannot immerse with the water, with Ma'im. And I'm going to immerse you with the Qahalath Ruach. Verse Mashali Proverbs 30 and 12. These are those who are clean in their own eyes, right? Because they were, you know, we purified ourselves from the first day to the 16th day. And then to the 25th day. And then that was the second month. But he said, don't go nowhere. Because I ain't finished cleaning you off yet. There are those who are clean in their own eyes. Everybody feel like they're clean in their own eye, with their own eyes, but are not washed from their filth, right? As you left the 25th day of the first month, you start to see things start to rise back up inside of you. You start to see certain behaviors start to rise back up. Demons start to rise back up. The gates of Sheol open up inside of you and start to try to prevail over you, because that's the fight between Michael and his Malakim and Shaitan and his Malakim inside of your body. And therefore, you start to see those things rise back up. And you start to see evil behaviors start to rise back up. And you practice them. Since people say, how fast is that? From the 25th day all the way to this day. You see how fast that was? And people say, that's how fast Satan can take over your mind. That's how skilled he is. Right? So that word for wash is rakats. Because he said that's what immersion is. Immersion is washing. To wash away, to bathe. I'm going to bathe you in the Ruach Qahalath. I'm going, not with Ma'im though. Natural Ma'im is good. But the Qahalath Ruach bathing is even better. To wash away, to wash, to bathe oneself, to be washed. It means to lave, right? You know, lave. Like when you wash soap and you rub it together, right? And you lave it together, and guess what? It makes a soap. Amazingly, it turns white. Amazingly. Bathe self, wash yourself. The whole part of it, he says the whole or part of a thing, right? That's the whole point. He said, I'm going to wash you with the Qahalath Ruach. I'm going to rakats you. I'm going to rakats you. Right? So that word for filth, I'm going to rakats you from your filth, because there's a lot of filth. Remember, he spoke about the Malkuth for 40 days. He was talking about the inward man. Because Yuchanan was talking more on the outward, right? You talk about the outward washing, but it was a good conscience, right? When it comes to your natural man, I'm going to wash myself, right? But when when you get immersed in Yahushua Mashiach, when you get immersed in his name, when you get bathed in the Ruach Qahalath, then guess what happens? He said, I'm going to wash you from your filth. It means filth. That word for filth is suah. Suah. It means filth, excrement, dirt, pollution, dung. Yeah, dung, like doo-doo. filth. I'm going to wash you from your dirt on your inside of your body. Inside of your body, your pollution, because you got pollution. You got pollution of jealousy, hatred, envy, strife, complaining, evil suspicion, robberies. You have hate. You got all types of fornication, adultery, soul ties. He said, you got all these things on the inside. You got all the things. You got slander. You got gossip. You got lying. Right. You got all these things on the inside. These are things that an outward washing inside of a water cannot clean. There's no way in the world it can clean that out. That water cannot clean that on the inside of you. It can make you for a little temporary time, but if you ain't immersed in the Kudash Ruach or Rakats, it ain't gonna last that very long. It means what? Pollution, dung, filthiness, right? Filthy, right? Filthy bodies, right? Filthy thoughts. Right, this is the book of Abimar, Numbers chapter 1 through 19. This is Numbers chapter 1 through 19. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting, right? He say the tent of meeting. This is why you gotta always keep your tent, your ayul out of your tent clean. You gotta be ayinu. Why? So Yahuwah can continually talk to you. On the first day of the second month, right? We're on the second day, but still. And in the second year after they had come out of the land of Mizraim, right? And he just came out. People say, why do you think Yahushua cried out twice on totality? Why do you think he did that? He says, verse 2 says, take a census of all the congregation of the people of Yasharal by clans, by their father's house, because the father rules. The Ab rules in the home. The husband rules in the home. And if you go outside of that, guess what happens? This don't even pertain to you. This is like a direct violation of Yahuwah's order. According to all the numbers and the names, every man or male, head by head. Because the man is the head, the husband is the head of the wife, as Mashiach is the head of the body. And it says, from 20 years old and upward. All the way up from 20 years old. Why? Anything lower than that, the woman is the head. That's why. And it says, all in Yasharal who are able to go to war. Right? Why do you think they're getting tried? Why do you think all these things? Why do you think you're going to war right now? What do you think all this is about? You and Aharon shall list them company by company, right? You know why? And there shall be with you a man from each tribe. From each tribe. Why? Each man being the head of the house of his fathers. And these are the names of the men who shall assist you. Why? Because this is all a part of it. What are the names of the men that shall assist you? From Rauban, Eleazar, the son of Shador. Right? The what? The son of Shador. You know, Shador, light bringer. From Simeon, Shemuel, the son of Zerahadi, from Yehuda. Nashan, the son of Aminadab, from Yisachar, Nathaniel, the son of Zuar, from Zabulun, Elab, the son of Helon, the sons of Yusuf, from Apharim, Eliashma, the son of Amihud, from Manasseh, Gamiel, the son of Pehur, from Benjamin, Adian, the son of Gideon, from Dan, Eleazar, the son of Amishshadi, from Asher, Pagiel, the son of Orkan, from Gad, Elisaph, the son of Duel, from Naphtali, Ahira, the son of Enan. These are the ones chosen from the congregation, the chiefs of the ancestral tribes, the heads of the clans of Yasharal. What do you mean? They're the heads, the Rosh. So you think the fathers and the husbands ain't the heads? You think the sons over 20 years old, once they leave your your authority, they now come into another authority, and they have to adhere to that authority. And guess what? And Mashai and Harun took these men who had been named. He took them on the first day of the second month. What do you think Yahushua was doing for 40 days? What do you think Yahushua was doing for 40 days with his disciples? And Mashai and Harun took these men who he had named on the first day of the second month. Didn't we just read in Acts, he said he chose the Shalakim? 12 shalakim over the tribes? Didn't we just read that? What do you think he was doing? They assembled the whole congregation together, who registered themselves by clans, by father's house, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, head by head. Why do you think he was doing that? Why do you think Yahushua was here for 40 days? Presenting himself with many proofs that he was risen from the grave. Why? Because he's just like Mashiach. And he's trying to show you, I commissioned the 12 shalakim, and I'm getting ready to establish something. So he listed them in the wilderness of Sinai in this month. Yeah, like this month. Right, because we're only 15 days out. And guess what? People have already started to go back to sin. People already started to go back to the things they used to do. Why? Because that's what natural human people do. But this is all a part of it. Right? Let's keep going. Right, so I think I put it twice. What did I go for? No? Yeah, continue on. You're continuing on. And Yahuwah's, where am I? Oh yeah. So I was in chapter 1, right? Just want to make sure I'm doing this right. What chapter this is? Right, this is the book of Midbar, chapter 9, 1 through 11. And Yahuwah spoke to Mishal in the wilderness of Sinai in the first month, in the second year, after he had come out of the land of Mizraim. Let the people of Yasharal keep the Pesach at its appointed time, right? On the 14th day of this month, right? So we're continuing on. So what is this? Why is this important? Because this month is actually the second month. So why is Yahushua still with the disciples for 40 days? Why is he still with the disciples for 40 days? And Yahuwah spoke to Mishal in the wilderness of Sinai in the first month of the second year after they had come out of the land of Mizraim, saying, let the people of Yasharal keep the Pesach at its appointed time. Why? On the 14th day of this month at twilight. Why? He said, at this month at twilight. Why? Ye shall keep it at its appointed time according to all its statutes and all its rules, you shall keep it. So when Yahushua rose from the grave on the fourth day, well, on the third day, and then on the fourth day of Qahalath, he presented himself to the Shalakim. So we 15 days out. Then on the first day of the second month, he gathered all the men together, and he commissioned the 12 Shalakim. Then he said, don't leave from Jerusalem till you be endued with power on high. Then, what do you think he said after that? Because nobody understood why he was risen. Really. Nobody really understood understood that he was even risen from the grave. So how is he going to explain to them that he's risen from the grave, according to the third day of Qahalath? How is he going to get them to get to that understanding before he leaves on the cloud? After Yahuwah spoke to Mishal in the wilderness of Sinai in the first month, in the second year, after they had come out of the land of Mizraim, saying, let the people of Yasharal keep the Pesach at its appointed time. On the 14th day of this month at twilight, ye shall keep it at its appointed time. Which month is this? This second month. Actually, this is the first month, This is the first month. But let's keep going. So Mishal told the people of Yasharal that they should keep the Pesach, and they kept the Pesach in the first month of the 14th day of the month at twilight, right? Because that's what we just did. And in the wilderness of Sinai, according to all that Yahuwah commanded Mishal, so the people of Yasharal did. They did that. And there were certain men who were unclean through touching of a dead body. Right? There were some people who weren't ready to take the Pesach. Matter of fact, nobody was, actually. Everybody wasn't clean when Yahushua did that whole Pesach. And guess what? So the people of Yasharal did. And there came certain men who were unclean by touching of a dead body, so that they could not keep the Pesach on that day. And they came before Moshe and Aaron that day. Who do you think those people were? And guess what happened? And those men said, we are unclean through touching a dead body. Why are we kept from bringing Yahuwah's offering at its appointed time among the people of Yasharal? And Machar said to them, wait, that I may hear what Yahuwah will command concerning you. He said they had to wait. Right? Verse 9 says, and Yahuwah spoke to Machar, saying, speak to the people of Yasharal, saying, if any one of you, of your descendants, is unclean through touching a dead body, or is on a long journey, he shall keep the Pesach to Yahuwah. Think about that. Think about that. If you wasn't in that house when Yahushua spoke to his disciples on the 4th day of Qahalath, you were unclean by a dead body. You were unclean because there were a generation that actually thinks that you were washed from your filth. You thought you were washed from your filth, but in actuality, you wasn't rakats. You wasn't rakats. And you still had your filth on you. Because nobody, if you ain't understand Yahushua, you still had your filth on you. Because you thought you were clean in your own eyes. But you just killed the son of Yahuwah. And he says, in the 2nd month of the 14th day at twilight, in between the evenings, and they shall keep it. They shall eat it with unleavened bread, or matzah, and bitter herbs. They shall leave none of it until the morning, nor break its bones. Right? So this is how you know that. Right? This is the book of Yehukanan. This is the book of John, Yehukanan, chapter 19. The book of John, Yehukanan, chapter 19. The book of John, Yehukanan, chapter 19 and verse 28. Yehukanan, chapter 19 and verse 28. After this, Yahushua, knowing that all was now finished, said, to fulfill the scripture, I thirst. A jar of sour wine stood there. So they put a sponge full of sour wine in hyssop branch and held it to his mouth. And when Yahushua had received the sour wine, he said, it is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up the ruach. He said he gave it up. But why he gave it up? Going over to, skipping over, verse 31. Verse 1931. Since it was the day of preparation, so that the bodies would not remain on the totality on the Shabath, for that Shabbat was a high day, the Yahudim asked Pilate that their legs might be broken, and that they might be taken away. So the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first, right? The first one, and the other who had been crucified with him. But when they came to Yahushua and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. But one of the soldiers pierced in his side with a spear, and at once came out blood and water. And he that saw it bore witness, and his testimony is true. And he knows that he is telling the truth. He ain't of Satan, Shaitan, that you also may believe. Believe what? Numbers chapter 9 and verse 11. Notice how he got 9:11. Numbers chapter 9:11. Midbar, wilderness, 9:11. In the 2nd month of the 14th day at twilight, between the evenings, right, they shall keep it. They shall eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Verse 12. They shall not leave none of it until the morning, right, nor break its bones. Why do you think they didn't break Yahushua's bones? Because remember, the 2 soldiers were dead already, but when they saw Yahushua, they didn't break his bones. That's how you know you unclean by a dead body, because you just slew the son of Yahuwah. According to all the statutes for the Pesach, they shall keep it. Why do you think they didn't break his bones? Because that was a statute they could not break. But they didn't know they were going to break it, though. They didn't know they were going to keep that actual statute, though, when they actually came to him on the cross, on totality. It was all a part of Yahuwah's will. So even though you may not believe or understand what you're doing, you still going to fulfill the Torah. Verse 13. But if anyone who is clean and is not on a long journey fails to keep the Pesach, that person shall be cut off from his people. So that's what we did in the first month. Now, if you wasn't unclean by a dead body, and you understood Yahusha, right? You understood Yahusha Mashiach in the Torah. You already knew this already, and you was on a long journey and you failed to keep it. He said that person shall be cut off from his people because he did not bring Yahuwah's offering at his appointed time. That man, I put household, shall bear his sin. Why? Because the whole household will get plagued. The whole household, man, if you ain't do the Pesach, your whole household will get plagued. If you already knew you're supposed to do it. It'd be better that you didn't even know it. You know how I say? It'd be better that you never even found this out. To stop doing it. You be like, I ain't gonna do nothing. Okay. Then it's better that you didn't know it. Verse 14. And if a stranger sojourns among you and would keep the Pesach to Yahuwah according to the statute of Pesach and according to its rule, so shall he do. Right? That's a willing person. And you shall have one statute for the sojourner and for the native. Right? So this is the second month. Right? Because they got to be circumcised too. According to the statute of Pesach. Why? Right? Book of Exodus chapter 12. So everything that Yahuwah does, why is he doing this? Because everything happens for a reason, right? Not Exodus chapter 12. Shemuth Exodus chapter 12. She moved to Exodus chapter 12 and verse 1. Yahuwah said to Moshe and Aharon, the land of Mizraim, this month shall be the beginning of months. It shall be the first of the month of the year for you. Skipping over to verse 11. 12 and 11. In this manner you shall eat of it. Your belts fastened, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahuwah's Pesach. For I will pass through the land of Mizraim that night, and I will strike all the firstborn of the land of Mizraim, both men and beasts, and all the gods of Mizraim. I will execute judgment. I am Yahuwah. Why? Because if you don't take Pesach, he considers you still with Mizraim, and you getting another opportunity in the second month to make sure that Yahuwah's wrath don't be on your household and on your life. The blood shall be a sign for you. Why do you think it pierced in Yahusha's side? We read, and out came blood and water. It is a sign for you that you should keep the Pesach. Matter of fact, he didn't even break his bones because it was a statue. And he's telling you, you need to keep the Pesach. But guess what? The blood shall be for you on the houses where you are. That's why I put household. That man shall bear his sin. Your whole household gonna bear your sin, Ish. The whole thing. The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. Why? That's why Yahushua said the Malkut. He talked about the Malkut a lot for 40 days. But you didn't know that you killed the son of Yahuwah. You didn't know that you're supposed to keep Pesach. You didn't know you needed the blood of Yahushua on your house to cover your house. Ish. Because you got to believe on the son. Because the head of the Mashiach is Yahuwah. The head of the man is Mashiach. And if you don't believe in the son, how are you going to believe in the father? And if you don't believe in the son and have his blood covering your household, your whole household going to get plagued. And that's what happens. He said, so how is that got anything to do with it? It has a lot to do with it. Because he's telling people to no longer be, stubborn. Right? Stubborn, right? Going to the book of Exodus, Shemuth Exodus, same book, 12, skipping over to verse 43. Shemuth Exodus 12:43. And Yahuwah said to Moshe and Aharon, this is the statute of the Pesach. We just read one of the statutes. You don't break his bones. That's what they did with Yahushua Mashiach. Then they pierced in his side. Out came blood and water. What do you think that was? I'm going to show you what that was. No foreigner shall eat of it, But every slave that is brought with money may eat of it after you have circumcised him. That's why Abraham circumcised everybody in his household. He said, after you have circumcised him. Because that's what he did. He bought the Goyim, the nations, with a price. He bought them. He redeemed us, Yasharal, the 12 tribes. He bought the Goyim with his blood. But it says, but every slave or a bod that is bought for money may eat of it after you have circumcised him. After you have. Because you got to be circumcised. No foreigner or hired worker may eat of it. You can't be a foreigner or a hired worker. It can be some random person just popping up and some foreigner who never even kept the statutes. It shall be eaten in one house. And you shall not take any of the flesh outside the house, and you shall not break any of its bones. Why do you think they laid Yahusha in the sepulchre? Right in the land where he was born at. Right where Abraham dwelt. He dwelt in the land where they were actually executing judgment on his son. And guess what? All the congregation Yasharal shall keep it. If a stranger shall sojourn with you and would keep the Pesach to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised. All of them be circumcised. Why? Then he may come near and keep it, and he shall be a native of the land. That's the only way you're going to be a native. Why we just read in the book in Numbers chapter 9 verse 14, and if a stranger sojourns among you and will keep the Pesach to Yahuwah according to the statutes of the Pesach and according to his rules, so shall he do. You shall have one statute both for the sojourner and for the native. Going back to Exodus 12 and 49. There shall be one law for the native and the stranger who sojourns among you. That's the whole point. But guess what? Going back up to verse 48. If a stranger sojourn among you with you and would keep the Pesach to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised. Then he may come near and keep it. He shall be as a native of the land, but no uncircumcised person shall eat of it. There shall be one law for the native and for the stranger that sojourns among you. All right, so why is this important, right? So this is the book of, so that word for twilight, in the second month of the 14th day at twilight, which is 13th day at evening, starts the 14th day. That's what starts the 14th day of the second month. All right, we're on the second day of the month. All right? That's what we're on. You got 12 days from now. Guess what? It's the Aydah, right? And it starts with an ayin, because you got to see it. You say, why? Because you got to be able to see. If you can't see this, then Yahuwah's wrath going to be on you. Because you got to be able to see this. See what? The Rosh house. Ain't that something? Right? Because that's what ayin means. The ayin means to see, watch, and experience. Rosh means head. Because that's what the head of the household is. And the Ba'ith, the house, that's what this month is. You need to do it for your household, to cover your household. You have to, if you say you believe on him. Right? This is 1 Kings, Aleph Malakim 6, 1 through 7. 1 Kings, Aleph Malakim 6, 1 through chapter 6, 1 through 7. In the 408th year after the people of Yasharal came out of the land of Mizraim, you know what we did in the first month? That's what we supposed to do. In the 4th year of Shalom's reign over Yasharal in the month of Zahu, right? That's what this second month is. He says, so what is this guy doing anything? Which is the second month. He began to build the house of Yahuwah. He said he began to do what? He began to build the house of Yahuwah. So how are you going to build a household without Yahushua Mashiach? How are you going to do that? There's no way in the world you're going to build a household without Yahushua Mashiach. That's why he said, right, this is 1 Corinthians. There's no way you can do it. This is the book of 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 11. 1 Corinthians 11 and verse 2. 1 Corinthians 11 and 2. 1 Corinthians 11 and 2. Now I commend you because you remember me in everything and maintain the traditions even as I delivered them to you. Why? Because the whole month is about Zakar. Remember. Why do you think he says Zakar Nakabah? Man and woman, male and female in the beginning. Zakar. It's a not of much watching. You need to remember Zakar. Remember how he spoke to you when he was with you. Zakar. You got to remember this or you'll forget. Guess what? Remember me and maintain the traditions even as I delivered them to you. But I want you to understand that the head or the rosh of every man is Mashiach. How are you going to build a house without him? The head of the Isha, the Nashim, is her husband. And the head of Mashiach is Elohim, Yahuwah. Every man, so what do you think all this is about? Going back to Malachim, 1 Kings, all of Malachim 6, 1 through 7. In the 408th year after the people of Yasharal came out of the land of Mizraim, so if you came out of Mizraim, you should have already came out, both male and female. Man, woman, and children should have came out of Mizraim if you did it. If you haven't, you went back to your old life. In the 4th year of King Shlomo's reign over Yasharal in the month of Ziv, that's what it says, which is the 2nd month, he began to build the house of Yahuwah. The house that King Malach Shlomo built for Yahuwah was 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. The Eulam, the vestibule, we talked about the vestibule, when they cleaned the Eul out of the house, cleaned the Tameh, the uncleanness, out of the house in the 1st month, in the first 16 days of the month. They brought it to the vestibule and they threw it in the brook, Nakalah Kudrum. It says the vestibule in front of the nave of the house was 20 cubits long, equal to the width of the house. It says, and the length and the 10 cubits deep in front of the house, right? So you think about that, how big that is. Right, you see those buildings today. You have the front of the house and you have the whole porch be as long as the house. You'd be like, why is it like the porch is the long as the whole house, the length of the whole house? That's what they do like that. That's what you call a ulam, right? Why this is important. So that word for ziv is zu, right? Zau, right? Zau. If you say it with the zan and the wu, zau, right? They put ziv, zau. It means ziv means brightness. In the month of brightness. Why? Because the sun is now moving towards the ecliptic plane and it's getting brighter and brighter to the longest day. It also means to be prominent. So how are you going to be prominent? How are you going to do that? It also means the month of flowers. The month of flowers. If you go outside, you start to see the flowers. It'd be purple flowers, pink flowers. You'll start to see these things on the ground. You start to see the white flowers. You see the dandelion flowers pop up a lot more. You start seeing the flowers start to bloom, the roses and the Qahalath lilies. You start to see them come up. Right? So you look at that word for Zan is the 7th letter of the alphabet. Wu is the 6th letter, which equals to 13. Which equals to 13. 1 plus 3 equals to 4, right? Just like the 4 corners of the earth. Just like the 4 corners of a garment with the zizis. Just like the four rivers that came out of the Garden of Eden. Just like the 4 Malachis sitting at the 4 corners of the earth. And all this is a part of it. It's a month of what? Zu, or Zau, right? The month of Zau, right? They call it the month of flowers. The month of flowers. Why? Because the flowers start to bloom. Flowers start to bloom. And during this time when the flowers start to bloom, people start to change. You should start to change. But if you're going back, that means you haven't really embraced the sun. I mean, not just the shamash. You haven't embraced the light of the debar. Because the light of the debar is supposed to make you bloom on the inside. It's supposed to make your flowers start to bloom. Your beauty should come out, not the evil raw that come out. The only thing that's Satan sowed those seeds inside of you. That's why you still got them. That's why they rose up. And you be like, what is that? That's Satan's seed. That's what he sowed. That's the tear. Then you got this beautiful flower inside of your thing, but you got a little weed in the middle of it. And whatever you yield yourself over, in between yield yourself over, then you'll start to see. Right? This is the month of flowers. It's all a part of it, right? This is continuing on, 1 Kings 6, 1 through 7, or 4 through 7. And he made for the house windows with recessed frames. He also built a structure against the wall of the house, running around the walls of the house, both at the nave and the inner sanctuary. And he made side chambers all around, right? Side chambers all around. The lowest story was 5 cubits abroad, and the middle one was 6 cubits abroad. And the third was 7 cubits abroad. For around the outside of the house, he made offsets of the wall in order that the supporting beams should not be inserted into the walls of the house. And when the house was built, it was with stone prepared at the core. He said, man, it was just like with stone. How he did that? So that neither hammer nor any tool iron was heard in the house while it was building. So how did he do that? How did he do that? Right. So this book of Proverbs. This is the book of Proverbs. I think it's Proverbs. So this is the book of Proverbs, chapter, I think it's 28. So this is the book of Proverbs. Yeah, let's see, Go to Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 1. Proverbs chapter 28, verse 1. Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 1. Mostly Proverbs chapter 28, verse 1. It says, the wicked flee when no one pursues them. Why? They ain't had nobody pursuing. Who was pursuing you when you came out of Mizraim? If you ain't taking Pesach, nobody pursuing you. He's like, yeah, I left Mizraim, I ain't taking Pesach. Nobody, but I assure you, you left and you wicked. You still wicked, you still evil, and guess what? You left out of Mizraim, and you still, ain't nobody, the wicked ain't pursuing you. The wicked flee when no one pursues. There ain't no point in you fleeing. But it says, but the righteous are bold as a lion, right? When a land transgresses, it has many rulers. But with a man of understanding and knowledge is stability with long continued. Right? Skipping over to verse 9. Proverbs 28:9. If one turns away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer is an abomination. So why is this important? Verse 10 says, whosoever misleads the upright in an evil way will fall into his own pit. Right? It's male or woman, man or woman. But the blameless will have a goodly inheritance, because the inheritance of the priest is Yahuwah and all its promises. Right? Go in the book of Proverbs or Psalms 45 and 1. Psalms 45, Tahalim 45 and 1. Psalms 45 and 1. Psalms 45 and 1. My heart overflows with a pleasing theme. I address my verses to the king, the Malek. My tongue is like a pen of a ready scribe. Say what? That's how he's going to build it. How are you able to build a house? There was no axe or tool or iron heard in the house while it was being built. But he said, my mouth is like a pen of a ready scribe, like Aydah. That's what ink is. Ready scribe. He's like, my tongue like a pen, like an inkhorn of a ready scribe, like a Dale. That's what pen is. Dale. You are the most handsome of the sons of Adam. Khan is poured out upon your lips. Therefore Elohim has baraked you forever. Gird up your sword on your thigh. Okay. O mighty one, in your splendor and majesty. In your majesty ride out victoriously for the cause of truth and meekness and righteousness. Let your right hand teach you awesome deeds. Right? So this is all a part of it. Right? This is going back to Aleph Malachim 6 and 7. When the house was built, it was with stone prepared at the quarry, so that neither a hammer, nor axe, nor tool, or iron was heard in the house while it was built. You mean stone that was prepared in the quarry. Right? All this is a part of what? Right? This is all a part of it. Because everything is a part of it. This is the book of Acts. Actually, go to the book of Psalms, Ta'alim. Psalms, Ta'alim 118. Psalms 118 and 20. Psalms 118 and 19. Ta'alim 118 and 19. Ta'alim 118 and 19. Open to me the gates of righteousness, that I may enter through them, and give thanks to Yahuwah. This is the gate of Yahuwah, and the righteous shall enter through it. I thank you that you have answered me, and have become my salvation. The stone which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Because this is in the second month he started to build the house. How you gonna build a house without a cornerstone? And matter of fact, the only way you can build it, it gotta be prepared quarry. It gotta be prepared in the quarry, and no axe or iron or tool can be heard in it. It can't be made with anything of a natural state. How you say your natural? You hammer things and you make it. You be like, I built a house to Yahuwah. Well, that's not the Malkuth he was talking about. Verse 23 in Proverbs 118:23. This is Yahuwah's doing, and is marvelous in your eyes. This is the day that Yahuwah has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. Why? Because he's starting to build a house. He said, I made it. Yahuwah makes a day. He can make a sun rise out of a portal. And people looking at a natural house as something great. He just made a whole day. Can you make a day with a hammer and a tool and an iron tool? You can't make a day with an iron and tools in your hand. Yahuwah does that with his debar. His mouth is like a writer's inkhorn. He already inscribed it, and guess what? In the beginning, when he wrote it, when he spoke his debar, and it does it what it wants. It does on autopilot. Right. So this is 2 Chronicles, Dabarei HaYamim 30, 1-17. And Hezekiah sent to all Yasharal and Yehuda, and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to the house of Yahuwah at Jerusalem and keep the Pesach to Yahuwah, the Elohim of Yasharal. For the kings and his princes and all the assembly in Jerusalem had taken counsel to keep the Pesach in the second month. In what? The second month. So who you think Hezekiah is? When Yahushua was appearing them 40 days, who you think it was doing that? You think it was Hezekiah? You think it was Hezekiah? The one who had to pray to Yahuwah to get added 15 days? No. It was Yahushua Mashiach. He was gathering all the people together because he had to reveal to them what they're going to have to do to get the Ruach Kodesh. And it says, and all the assembly in Jerusalem had taken counsel to keep the Pesach in the second month. For they could not keep it at that time because the Kohanim had not consecrated themselves. Insufficient number, because you're supposed to did it from the first day to the 16th day. before the third day. And nobody was consecrated. Nobody did what they were supposed to. So therefore, insufficient number. Ain't that many. He's like, I need more. So they decreed to make a proclamation throughout all Yasharal from Beersheba to Dan, that the people should come to keep the Pesach to Yahuwah, the Elohim of Yasharal at Jerusalem. For they had not kept it as often as prescribed. You need to keep the Pesach. You need to keep the Pesach. Why? Because that's important. That's the first Shamayim. You need to be registered in the Shamayims, and your citizenship needs to be in the Shamayims, not here on earth. Because you're supposed to seek those things which are above and not on the earth. You need to be inscribed in the Shamayims. If you don't, so the courier went throughout all Yasharal and Yehuda with letters from the king and his princes, and as the king had commanded, saying, O people of Yasharal, return to Yahuwah, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yasharal, that he may turn again to the remnant of you who have escaped from the hand of the king of Assyria. He said, you saying you came out of Mizraim? You say you escaped? Then you need to keep the Pesach. Do not be like your fathers and your brothers. Don't be like these other men and women, the young men, and from 20 years old and upward. The other men from 20 years old and upward, and the fathers, who were faithless to Yahuwah Elohim of their fathers, so that he made them a desolation as you see. What do you think you're ready to happen? He already said, I already did it. You see that desolation? You see what I just did? I destroyed that. But guess what? You ever want to see me do it again? I can do it again. Do not be stiff-necked as your fathers were, because the head of the house is stiff-necked and gets you who's your Mashiach. How you gonna be able to stop what Yahuwah gonna do to you? How? So that he made them a desolation as you see. Do not be stiff-necked as your fathers, but yield yourselves to Yahuwah and come to his sanctuary, which he has consecrated forever, and serve Yahuwah your Elohim. Right? Because you got to be what? Consecrated. You got to keep the Pesach. That his fierce anger may turn away from you. Yahuwah is angry at you. People say, yeah. The man is angry at. It doesn't matter. Man, if you old or young, 20 years old and upward, he angry at you. Because you can comprehend this. You be like, man, I'm 19 and a half. I turn 19 tomorrow. I turn 20. Well, guess what? If you think about how Yahuwah's mindset is, he's like, okay, so you 20 years old. You say you believe in me. You say you walking in my statutes and my judgments, right? And then you not circumcised and you ain't take Pesach. And then it's almost the 15th day. The 15th day of the second month, right? We ain't there yet, but still. For if you return to Yahuwah, your brothers and your children will find compassion with their captors. You know all we do, you know what people do? They ain't circumcised in the flesh. They ain't keeping Pesach, they ain't consecrated. They never did it from the 1st to the 16th day. Matter of fact, they were doing all type, they weren't abstaining from anything. Then the 25th day, they don't know what you're talking about. Then the only thing they do after that is complain about their captors and what they're doing to them. They complain about the place where they live at. They complain about everything else instead of just doing what he said. And then people say, why won't they do it? Because they just indoctrinated. Will find compassion with their captors and return to this land. But you think they're going to do it? Nope. For Yahuwah, your Elohim, is gracious and merciful and will not turn away his face from you if you return to him. So how are you going to return to Yahuwah? Return unto me and I'll return to you. How are you going to return or repent? You know how people say, I'm going to repent. I'm going to repent of my sins. Well, you got to keep Pesach. You gotta honor him by keeping his commandments. That's how you return to Yahuwah Elohim. That's how you return to what you call God. The one in the highest Shamayim. That's how you do it. Because Yahushua said, as often as you do this, you remember my death and suffering till I come. Didn't he say that? So you think Yahushua, when he rose on the 16th day at evening, a Chag Matzah, and then on the 18th day, he showed himself with many infallible proofs, right? to his disciples, and they still didn't believe. Then we're on the 15th day since that, and you think for some reason he gonna pardon you. Verse 10. So the couriers went from the city to city through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh as far as Zabulon, and they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. That's what people do today. Don't they do that? You got to be circumcised in the flesh, man. Yahusha rose from the grave. That stuff is over with. I ain't got to keep no Pesach and be circumcised in my flesh and keep the Pesach on the first day of the first day of the month, from the 14th day to evening. 14th day in between the suns. I ain't got to do that. I ain't got to do it in the second month on the 14th day in between the suns. And you know what they do? They laugh them to scorn and mock them. All the messengers. That's what you're going to do to me right now. He sent the couriers from city to city through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh as far as Zabulon. And they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Right? You know how they make mocking. They put Instagram posts, X posts. They do all these evil things. They put all these little mixed messages up. Try to make you look like a fool, like you don't know what you're talking about. But guess what? That's what happened to Yahusha. This is the book of Matthew 27. He said, I want to be like Yahusha. Okay. Then be like him then. This is what you got to do. This is the book of Matthew 27:27. Then the soldiers of the governors took Yahusha and Yahusha into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole battalion before him. And they stripped him and put on a scarlet robe on him. And twisting a crown of thorns, they put it on his head and put a reed in his right hand. And kneeling down before him, they mocked him, saying, you telling me we got to keep the Pesach in the second month? You talking about we got to keep the Pesach in the first month? You saying we got to be circumcised? You saying we got to honor Yahushua Mashiach and remember his death and suffering? You saying we got to do it according to the Torah? You saying that we are native? You saying that you were part of his covenant? You're saying that we got to do that way? Ha ha ha! You think you the king of the Yahudim? You think you the people? Ha ha ha! And that's what happens. You think you the Malak of the Yahudim? Come down from the cross, we'll believe in you. Come down from that stupid teaching you talking about. That's the most dumbest teaching in the world. That's the most stupidest teaching in the world. That's literally what they're saying to you. And guess what? And kneeling before him, they mocked him, saying, Hail, Malach of the Yahudim. And they spit on him and took a reed and struck him in the head. And that's what they're going to do to you. That's what they're going to do to you. Because they weren't properly cleansed, and they was not consecrated according to the Kohanim. And they had blood guilt on them. And they did not believe in Yahushua Mashiach, so therefore they could not build a house, a functioning household. And guess what? Hail, Malach of the Yahudim, and they spit on him and took a reed and hit him in the head. And it says, and when they had mocked him, they stripped him of his robe and put on his own clothes on him and led him away to crucify him. And as they went, they found a man of Cyrene by name, where they compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to the place called Golgotha, which is a place of skull, they offered him wine to drink mixed with gall. And when he tasted it, he would not drink it. You know why? Because these are stiff-necked people. Why would you trust a stiff-necked, hard-hearted people who wasn't consecrated properly, who didn't abstain from anything, who literally mocked and laughed because he said you got to purify your mind and your thoughts in the first 16 days. And then all the way to the 16 days, and in the 17th day he rose, and on the 18th day he appeared, and then the 25th day you got visions of Malachi, and he's saying they fought me for 21 days. And then you want to act like everything's good and everything's not, because nobody did it properly. And they just mocked Yahushua Mashiach. Verse 11, however, some men of Asher, you got some, of Manasseh and Zabulon humbled themselves. Oh, there we go. Einu, Anah, Anua, Sanah, Kana, and came to Jerusalem. I'm looking for those people. Who's going to humble themselves and come? Because everybody's not going to do it. That's just the truth. If anybody does it, that means they humble themselves. And that is a great price for Yahuwah, right? Verse 12 says, the hand of Yahuwah was also on Yehuda, to give them one heart to do what the king and the princes commanded by the word of Yahuwah. Why? They gave one heart, one mind. What happened? Verse 13, and many people came together in Jerusalem to keep the feast of unleavened bread in the second month. They came to do what? Keep the Chag Matzah in the second month, a very great assembly. And what else they do? And they set the work and removed the altars that were in Jerusalem and all the altars from the burning incense, and they took away and threw them in the brook Kidron. Oh, isn't that what we did in the first month? They threw all that stuff away. They got the leaven out of their house. They got the brook Kidron, the Qahalath Kidron, you know, the place with the dark waters. You know, the last dark waters we saw in the second Baruch? They threw it in the brook Kidron. And they slaughtered the Pesach lamb on the 14th day of the second month, in between the suns. What do you think they're doing with Yahushua right here? In the second month. And the Kohanim and the Levites were ashamed. That's what you should be. You ain't doing it in the first month. So they consecrated, guess what it says? So they consecrated themselves and brought burnt offerings in the house of Yahuwah. You know what happens? They took their accustomed post according to the Turah of the Mashad, the man of Yahuwah Elohim. Why? That's what, because the inheritance of the priest is Yahuwah and its promises. The priest, through the blood that they received from the hand of Louis, they sprinkled the people. You know, that's what Yahushua got pierced in his side. And guess what? For there were many in the assembly who had not consecrated themselves. Why you think that's why you need the blood on your household? That's why you need the blood of Yahushua Mashiach over your household. That's why you got to keep the Pesach in the second month. And you got to keep the whole 7 days of Chag Matzah in the second month. He says, so why is this important? Going over to Matthew chapter 27, 45. Matthew chapter 27 and 45. It says, now from the 6th hour there was darkness of the land to the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour, Yahushua cried out with a loud voice, saying, Aliyah, Aliyah, lama sabachthani, that is, Ma'alahim, Ma'alahim, why is thou forsaking me? Because they forsook it. They didn't do it in the first month. They were on a long journey. But then you have some people who ain't consecrate themselves properly, who didn't clean their body out. You ever notice after the Pesach, after 11 bread, you get things that come back in your heart and your mind? You got all this evil, schemes, plots, hatred, jealousy, envy. You got all these evil things inside of you, and they start to rise back up. Well, just understand you didn't cleanse yourself properly. That's why it's there. That's why he said you're going to be immersed with the Qahalath Ruach, because you didn't cleanse yourself properly. And guess what happened? It says, and he cannot save himself. Actually, going to verse 42. Matthew 27, 47. And some of the bystanders hearing it, this man is calling for all Yahoo. And one of them at once ran and took a sponge and filled it with sour wine and put it on his head, a reed, and gave it to him to drink. But the other said, wait, let's see whether Yahoo will save him. And Yahushua cried out again. He cried out again. He cried out again. Why do you think this second Pesach is for? Because you wasn't properly cleansed in the first time you did it. You wasn't properly cleansed. So he cried out again for you. Because after the 21st day, he said everybody went back to sinning again. Everybody went right back to the very same thing they used to do. And then on the 25th day, it's hear all the knowledge and understanding, and went right back to the thing they used to do. And he said, you know what? I'm going to cry out again for you. I'm going to do it again for you. And guess what he did? And Yahushua cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his ruach. Now you understand why it's 2 Pesachs. Because I already know you didn't do it properly the first time. So then here you go again. I did it again. Why do you think he was here for 40 days? What do you think he was here for 40 days? They didn't do it properly. Because if they did, they wouldn't have been so hard-hearted after he rose from the grave, and they would have believed immediately. There wouldn't be nobody running to the tomb. It wouldn't be nobody talking about, you remember. He wouldn't have to break the bread and say, here, and heart wouldn't burn within them. They wouldn't have to do none of that. It would automatically be in there. But being that they didn't cleanse themselves properly, they couldn't see him and understand it because they didn't cleanse themselves properly. Not one of them. That's why they couldn't believe when he appeared in them and morphed out of the room. Verse 17 of this 2 Chronicles 30:17, it says, for there were many in the assembly, going to verse 17, who had not consecrated themselves. Therefore the Levites had to slaughter the Pesach lamb for everyone who was not clean to consecrate it to Yahuwah. Why? For a majority of the people, many of them from Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, Zabulon, had not cleansed themselves, yet they ate. Yet they ate Pesach otherwise than as what? Yet they ate Pesach otherwise as they prescribed. They still did it. Even though they didn't consecrate themselves, even though they didn't keen a yule out of their tent, even though they didn't cleanse all the filth out of their house and put it at the vestibule, they still did it. That's all the people you read on the cross. And that's every one of us. Because people be thinking, oh man, I did that Pesach, well that thing right. Not even knowing. He said, deep down in your heart, that part of yourself that you want to hide, that part of yourself that you want to actually don't want to actually dig deep inside to pull out and get out of your tent, your AU. He said, I saw it already. I saw it already. I saw it. For Qahalath had prayed for them, saying, may the good Yahuwah pardon everyone. That word for pardon is kafar. Now you see why Yahushua cried out in totality. He prayed for us. He said, Abba, forgive them for they know not what they're doing. He pardoned you. Why do you think he did that? He pardoned you. He gave you another chance, a second chance. He pardoned you, even though you didn't cleanse yourself properly and you took Pesach anyway. He said, he pardoned you. He kafar you. You couldn't do this if you tried. He gave you that opportunity, and you couldn't do it if you tried. He already know your flesh is weak. He already know you weak. He already know you can't do it on your own. That's why Shaul said, I can do all things with Mashiach. I can't do it. You can't do it without him. You need him. That's why you got to do it. If you do it, you need him. That's why you need him to build a house. You need him. Verse 19, who set his heart to seek Elohim, right? It made good Yahuwah kafar everyone who set his heart to seek Elohim, Yahuwah, the Elohim of their fathers, even though not according to the sanctuary's rules of cleanness. Even though not according to the sanctuary's rules of cleanness, you didn't do it properly. You didn't move Ayul out of your tent. Know ye not that your body is the temple of Yahuwah? Even though you didn't really do it, he still did it. And that's why he said why he was here for 40 days. That's why he was here for 40 days. Because a lot of people be thinking like, yeah, why he was here for 40 days? You should thank Yahuwah he was here for 40 days. Verse 20, and Yahuwah heard Qahalath and healed the people. You think he heard? He heard. Who do you think he heard? He heard. Who do you think he heard? He heard Yahushua Mashiach. And the people of Yasharal were present at Jerusalem to keep their feast of unleavened bread 7 days with great gladness. Why? Why would you not? You have there's no way you can do it. He the only one that allow you even do this. And the Levites and the priests praised Yahuwah day by day, singing with all their might. He's like with everything they got to Yahuwah. And because you needed Yahuwah's anger to go away from you. And the Qahalath spoke encouragingly to all the Luai, the priests, the Kohanim, who showed good skill in the service of Yahuwah. So they ate the food of the festival for 7 days, Chag Matzah, sacrificing peace offerings and giving thanks to Yahuwah Elohim of their fathers. Then what they do? Then the whole assembly agreed together to keep the feast another 7 days. Now you see why Yahushua was here for 40 days. He already done did Chag Matzah with his disciples. They rose 7 days, they didn't do it. Then they did it. You get another opportunity on this month, on the second day, between 14 days. On the 14th day for another 7 days, 8 days, right? Then they said, we're going to do it again for another 7 days. 777. 777. 777. So they kept it for another 7 days with gladness. And people say, how long you think Yahushua and them were keeping the Chag Matzah and Pesach? He said, as often as you do this, you remember my death and suffering till I come. Why do you think they kept doing it over and over again? You remember my death and suffering till I come. And let's do it again for another 7 days. Let's keep remembering Yahushua Mashiach. All the way to the time he was getting ready to leave. What do you think they were doing? Let me guess. They were doing something else. No, this is all they were doing. From the time that, this is all they were doing. This is all they were doing. Until the time he left. For Qahalath, king of Yehuda, gave an assembly of 1,000 bulls, 7,000 sheep for offering, and princes gave the assembly 1,000 bulls, 10,000 sheep, and all the priests consecrated themselves in great number, right? That's what they did. And the whole assembly of Yehuda and the Kohanim and the Lui, and the whole assembly that came out of Yasharal and the sojourners, and the sojourners who came out of the land of Yasharal and the sojourners who lived in Yehuda rejoiced. Because he was risen. So there was great joy in Jerusalem. He was risen for these 40 days. Think about it, you found out. Man, it's like, man, he risen from the grave. You know why it ain't real? Because you can't see it physically. But he said, Barak is he who have not seen but still believes. If you still believe this, then guess what? You should have simcha, joy on the inside, because the joy of Yahuwah is your strength. How are you gonna have strength in the midst of your trials and you got no joy that Yahushua rose from the grave? For since the time Shalom, the son of Dawid, king of Yasharal, there had not been nothing like this in Jerusalem. The Kohanim and Lui arose and baraked the people, and their voice was heard, and their prayer came to his Qahalath habitation in Shamayim, because you need to seek those things which are above and not on the earth. Why? Because it's the first Shamayim. Why would you not want to be in the first Shamayim before you go? Why would you not want to complete it? Even though they did it on the first day, even they did it on the first month, on the 14th day in between the suns, and did it for 7 days, they still ain't consecrating themselves properly. Then they did it again on the second month for another 7 days. And then what? They did it for another 7 days. Why? Do not grow weary in well-doing, for in due time you'll reap. You know, that man, that's crazy. I know, because you don't want to reap your harvest. How is you going to understand Yahushua Mashiach in its totality? Because Satan got a bunch of seeds to sow. He's sowing seeds every single minute. Man, he got a cell phone, a computer, a television. Man, he's sowing seeds. He got so much stuff growing out here. There is no way in the world you're going to be able to, man, it's like unless you really, really, really on this thing. Right? It's all a part of it. Right? This is the book of Bereshit, Genesis chapter 4, 1 through 16. He says, so why is this important? Because all this is important. All this is important. It is. I assure you. This book of Bereshit chapter 4, 1 through 16. Now Adam knew Kawua, his wife, right? He knew her. And she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man by the help of Yahuwah. And again she bore his brother Habal. Now Habal was a keeper of sheep, and Cain was a worker of the ground, right? And you know how to look all that. In the course of time, Cain brought to Yahuwah an offering of the fruit of the ground, right? Everybody brought something. You know how you go. Everybody brought something, right, to to the cog, the mu'ah, the feast, right? You know how you bring some food? Because the inheritance of the priest is what? Yahuwah. And they supposed to eat the food offerings, right? Then, and all the promises. And in the course of time, Cain brought to Yahuwah an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Habal brought the firstborn of his flock and the fat portions, right? So he brought he killed something, like they say. Right? In the other books, other translations say that Cain brought the lamb, right? Cain brought the animal, and then Habal brought the fruits of the ground. But to each his own. But at the same time, they still all brought something, right? And Yahuwah had regard for Habal and his offering. Why? His heart, his mind. He properly cleansed himself. We just read it. They didn't properly cleanse themselves, even though they did Pesach, but they didn't do it according to the cleanness of the sanctuary, and it really didn't clean that stuff out of them. So therefore, that's why the Malkuth is inside of you. He's like, I got more regard for Abel because he did it properly, and they properly cleansed themselves. But he said, but for Cain, his offering had no regard. Now you see why you get a second chance at Pesach. He's like, why we get a second? He's like, Yahuwah's angry at us, man, because we didn't do it properly. He said, I ain't had no regard. So Cain was very angry. He was upset. And his face fell. He said, Yahuwah like, hold on. Why are you upset? I'm the one angry, not you. You shouldn't be angry, Cain. I'm the one that's angry. Why are you angry? I'm angry at you. You shouldn't be angry at nobody. Right? What's the point of you getting upset for? And his face fell. And Yahuwah said to Cain, why are you angry? I'm the one that's angry. I'm the one that gave you Pesach. You're supposed to clean Aydah out of your tent and consecrate yourself on the first day of the 16th day. I'm the one who told you to clean it out of your house in the vestibule and get this trash out of the house. I'm the one who told you to do that and throw it in the brook Kudrum. I'm the one who told you to do that. So what you upset for? And why is your face falling? If you do well, if you properly cleanse your house and you remove everything out of your tent, your Aydah out of your tent, and you consecrate yourself and you properly clean yourself out, you know what happens after that? If you do well, will you not be accepted? So what do you mean, will you? Notice how I say you. You, he said you will be accepted. Did he say anything about the thing he brought, the food he brought? Did he say anything about the animal he brought? He said you will be accepted. It ain't got nothing to do with the food you got in your hand. You was like, man, get food. An animal with some fat on it. He's like, Yahuwah say, I don't like stuff that's dead. You know how people say, you want me to, you offer me something that's dead. Notice he brought fruit. Because fruit has hertz frequency in it. People don't know that. When you start killing animal, it has nothing in it. It has nothing in it. So who do you think Yahuwah wants? Who do you think Yahuwah really wants? Because what happened? I'm gonna show you. And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. That's everybody. Is that not every single human being on earth? Is that not all of us? Sin is always at the door. Lying is always at the door. Hatred, jealousy, envy, strife, complaining, pride, arrogance. Your old life, your old lovers, your past life. Everything's still there. It's all at the door. Knocking at your door, trying to get to you. Trying to mess with your mind. Trying to get on your 12 cranial nerves. It's all there. It's always going to be there. Its desire is for you. Why do you think that? He said, man, why these people, why this person, why these things, why all this sin desiring me? They want you. And you must rule over it. How you rule over it? With the bar. What's the only thing that can put all things under his feet? The word of Yahuwah. That's everybody. Verse 8 says, Cain spoke to Abel, his brother, and when they have, it says, and you must rule over it. Verse 8 says, Cain spoke to Habel, his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Habel and killed him. I told you everybody unclean by a dead body. We just read that. They on a long journey, They were in the field, a long journey, and you unclean by a dead body. And you haven't properly cleansed yourself the first time. We just read that, didn't we? That's what Cain didn't do. And then he unclean by a dead body. He just killed his brother. And guess what he did? Then Yahuwah said to Cain, where is Habel, your brother? He's like, hold on, where your brother? Where your sister at? Where your child at? Because people could be killing their children. Throw them in the lake. And he's like, hold on, what you done did? Because you angry? There is no God. There is no Yahuwah, right? They start becoming like this and they just start going crazy. Where is Habel, your brother? He said, I do not know. Am I my brother, sister, keeper? Or the children's keeper? I don't care where them children at. Yahuwah say, she may forget, but I won't forget. Yes, she always says, should a mother forget her second child? She may forget, but I ain't gonna forget. I know where your brother at. I know where your sister at. I know where your friend at. I know where your husband at. I know where your wife, your Isha is at. I know what you did with them people. And Yahuwah said, what have you done? That's the same thing, Adam. What you do? The voice of your brother's blood is crying from the ground. Why do you think Yahushua was piercing the side, out came blood and water? Why do you think they didn't break his bones? The Pesach lamb, Yahushua Mashiach, his blood is crying from the ground. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. Right? You did it. You unclean by dead body. You did it. When you work the ground, it shall no longer yield to you its strength. The more you kill, the more you slay your brother and sister, your children, or anything you do, the more you do it, the more your ground in your mind will not yield its strength anymore when you sow seed inside of it. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer in the earth. So what's this got to do with anything? Cain said to Yahuwah, my punishment is greater than I can bear. That word for bear is nasa. Because who's supposed to bear the ark? The Kohanim, the priest. They're supposed to nasa the ark, bear the ark. They're supposed to bear the Arum and put the kaparoth on top of it with the mercy seat. Because how you going to get mercy? How you get mercy? Through Yahushua Mashiach. Why do you think Yahuwah said, keep the Pesach? And Yahuwah's wrath will turn, because you ain't do it according to the customs of the priest of the sanctuary. You didn't even cleanse yourself. So who you think Yahuwah wants? Abel was killed, Habel was killed. Everybody is guilty of killing Yahushua Mashiach. Who do you think Yahuwah wants? He wants Cain. He wants you. Because you are Cain. He wants you. He want you. Not your food in your hand and your animal you killed. I want you. So you kill your brother, but by killing Yahushua Mashiach, you can't bear the punishment of what you're supposed to get. You can't bear it. So therefore he bore it. He NASA, he carried it. My punishment is greater than I can bear. Or NASA, you can't bear it. You can't carry it. Behold, you have driven me today from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer in the earth, and whosoever finds me will kill me. They're going to kill me, man. Yahuwah's wrath is on me. Right, you know how it says? We just read that. His wrath, that Yahuwah's wrath turned on you. Guess what he said? Then Yahuwah said to him, not so. I know you think that, but you're the actual person that I want. Because, we be thinking this. He's going to kill me. Yahuwah's going to kill me. Right. But he said, if anyone kills Cain, right, vengeance will be taken on him sevenfold. So you shouldn't. He's like, hold up. My son, I died for him. He died, and he died for my sins. And he is in the ground, and he's blood crying from the ground, but it was for you and your sin. And Cain worried about, man, people gonna kill me. I ain't do it. Well, Yahushua just gave you another chance. He's like, in the second month, we got this one Kagmuad. Matter of fact, we even got it a third time. He's like, Yahuwah like, we even got it a third time. So you do, even in the second month, he's like, yeah, I can do the second month, 14 days between sun. He said, that you can do it. You can do it another 7 days after that. So that's how Yahuwah is. Yahuwah be like, so you saying I can do it again and again and again? He's like, yeah. If you want to do it, you can do it all the time. Matter of fact, as often as you do it, you remember me that you couldn't bear your sin. And you couldn't bear the punishment that you got. And you can carry the ark. You can carry the Aron. He said, no. Huh? Vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Yahuwah put a mark on Cain. So, he put a what? Lest any who found him should attack him. He said, you better not touch him. Now you see why Dawid said, when the other men were trying to get him to take out Saul, he was like, I'm not going to put my hand against you who is anointed. I don't care what you all say, Satan, because that's what they were. Satan trying to get me to kill Saul. I know I could take him out right now. Ooh, I could kill him right now. Shiva theme, right? I could stab him like 7 times in a row. But he said, nah, I'm not going to put my hand on touch you who is anointed. Even though he's just evil as heck right now. Does someone raw and evil? He said, I can't do that. That's not going to be right. That's not going to be right. And Yahuwah put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. Then Cain went away from the presence of Yahuwah and settled in the land of Nud, east of Aydah. Why? Because he had to do that. But being that he didn't do it the first time, then he got cast away. He said, I can't bear it. But guess who he wanted? Guess who he wants to come back? He wants Cain. He said, I put a mark on you. They better not touch you, because I still want you to turn back to me. And I'm giving you another opportunity at Pesach. It ain't about the food that you brought from the ground or the lamb, the flock, the first of the flock that Habel brought. It was about the heart that I accepted. That's why he accepted Yahushua Mashiach's offering. That's why he accepted Yahushua Mashiach's offering. That's why he accepted his offering and rejected Cain's offering, because none of the people cleansed themselves properly. Not one person. All under sin, and nobody was able to get salvation. His offering was the only one that was accepted. Nobody was able to get it. Right, this book of Yochanan, John 16, 12 through 15. I still have many things to say to you, and you cannot bear them. Why do you think you can't say, man, this punishment is more than I can answer. I can't carry this. Because you can't put it in your ark. But he said, you take Pesach, and you cleanse yourself properly, and you remove Ayol out of your tent, and you keep yourself from sexual pleasure and the things that naturally distort the mind. He said, I'll allow you to carry it. And you get prepared to carry it. And then you can start a household. You can build a house. You can build it properly. You know what? I have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. Why do you think he ain't tell him all the things at one time in the house when he appeared to him? He had to stay here 40 days. Man, we got to do another feast. Matter of fact, we got to do it again. And again. We got to do it all the way through. That's the only way you can bear it. Because remember, what do trees grow during this time? They start to grow. When the sun come back up, rain, sun, rain, it just started to grow higher. He said, okay, now you can bear it now. Here go more. Here go more. Now stay here in Jerusalem until you get what you actually supposed to get. And when the Ruach of truth comes, he will guide you into all truth, for he will not speak of his own authority, but whatsoever he hears, he will speak. And he will declare to you the things that are to come. Huh? Stay here in Jerusalem. Don't go nowhere until I'm going to give you something. But just make sure you continually, repetitively understand this. And he will kabod me, for he will take what is mine and declare it to you. To put in your Aron, with your ChayParach on top, your mercy seat, put the Aydah, the testimony, inside of you. All that the Father has is mine. Therefore I said, he will take what is mine and declare it to you, Cain. To you, Cain. To you, priests who didn't cleanse themselves properly. To you, people who were unclean by a dead body, who slew your brother on totality, who didn't break his bones either. But at the same time, to you, to you. So why is this important? Because everything happens for a reason, right? We're going to keep going. This is the book of Dead Sea Scrolls, column 6, 4Qs, 257. These are the paths in the world to enlighten the heart of Aydah. Straighten out in front of him all the paths of true justice. Establish in his heart respect for the precepts of Elohim and the Ruach of meekness, and patience and generous compassion. Eternal goodness. What do you think that was? We just talked about it in 2 Chronicles 30. He said that Yahuwah's compassion may come upon you, right? That's his whole point. Eternal goodness, intelligence, understanding, potent wisdom, which trusts in all the deeds of Elohim and depends on his abundant mercy. What do you think all that was for? What do you think the second opportunity is for? What do you think it's for? Mercy. A ruach of knowledge in all plans of action, of enthusiasm, decrees of justice, and set apart plans and firm purpose, and generous compassions, with all the sons of truth, of magnificent purity which detests all unclean idols, of careful behavior and wisdom concerning everything, of concealment of the truth and the mysteries of the knowledge. These are the foundations of the ruachs of the sons of truth, the spirits of the sons of truth in the world. And the reward of those who walk in it will be healing. Then because of Yahweh, he prayed to Yahuwah. He said, and Yahuwah heard what he said when they said they're going to keep the Chag Matzah in the second month. And he did it again. And Yahuwah healed the people. He healed them. Plentiful peace and long life. What do you think is going to happen to you? Shalom and long life. Fruitful offspring and everlasting barak. You can build a house again because the head of Mashiach is, the head of the Ish is Mashiach. And the head of the Mashiach is Yahuwah. And the head of the Isha is the husband. And you can build a house. You can start building a house. Not made with hands. Not made with stones and tools that you hear for the pride of man. For a house is built by some man, but Yahuwah made all things. He made everything. He can make a day. Faster than you can build a house, a natural house. How fast can you make a day? I'll darken it from the 6th hour to the 9th hour. That's how fast I made a day. As a matter of fact, I make it Aydah so fast, and I make the sun come back up. How fast you did that? In about 3 hours. How fast can you build a house? He said, can you do it at the speed of light? What is the speed of light? 299,758,129 miles per second or something like that? Right, you think about that. Can you do it like that fast? Nope. Mach 50. Mach 13, right? No, you can't. How fast can you do that? How fast can you fly and do all this? No, you can't do that. However, the ruach of deceit belongs greed, right? That's the whole point. Sluggish in the service of justice. You ain't cleaned yourself properly. You didn't do it. Greed. Sluggish in the service of justice. Not clean. You didn't clean yourself properly. Wickedness. You didn't clean yourself properly. Falsehood. Pride. Haughtiness of heart. You didn't cleanse yourself properly. Dishonesty. Trickery. You didn't cleanse yourself properly. Cruelty. Much insecurity. Impatience. Much foolishness. There's no way in the world you could have kept the facade properly. Impudent enthusiasm for appalling acts performed in lustful passion. That's the whole world. You know, that was filthy past in the service of impurity. Then we just talk about you're filthy. There's a generation that is rakats, but they ain't been cleansed from all their filth. They haven't been washed from all their filth. Blasphemous tongue, blindness of eyes. Remember your brother's keeper? Even though they didn't do it according to the cleansing of the sanctuary. Hardness of hearing, even though they didn't do it according to the sanctuary, I'll still give them another chance. And another. And another. And another. Stiffness of neck. Then we just said, be no longer stiff-necked, that Yahuwah's wrath may turn against you. Hardness of heart, in order to walk in the paths of darkness and evil cunning. Oh, man. You know what happens after that? Why do you think he darkened with the 6th and the 9th hour? He did all that for people. And you think Yahuwah wants to do the next part of this? No. But he has to. Why? And the visitation of those who walk in it will be abundance affliction by the hands of the Malachia of destruction. For eternal damnation by scorching wrath of Elohim that revenges. For permanent terror and shame without end with the humiliation of destruction of the fire of the dark regions. All that. In all the ages of their generations, there shall be bitter weeping and harsh evils in the abyss of the darkness until destruction. That's why he said a man shall bear his sin if you don't do it. Because you're going to bear your sin. You're going to NASA your sin. Isn't that what Cain had to do? He's like, this is more than I can NASA. And then what did Yahushua say? Right, this is the book of, this is more than I can do. You know how they say, right? Right, so this is the book of 2 Peter, 1 Peter chapter 5, 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 6. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 1. Actually, 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 2. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 2. Shepherd the flock of Elohim that is among you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion but willingly, as Elohim would have you, not for shameful gain. You know what greed is? We should read that right there in the Ruach of deceit. But eagerly, not domineering over those you in your charge, right? But examples to the flock. Why? You can't build a house without Yahushua Mashiach as your head. And when the chief shepherd appears, because he the chief. Oh, you mean the head of all the... He be like, that's the chief shepherd. And now you see why you need Yahushua Mashiach. He be saying, I don't need Yahushua Mashiach ahead of me. I said, okay. You're going to go straight to Yahushua. You ain't the chief shepherd. You're just a head over a household. So therefore, you need Yahushua Mashiach. That's why you need to keep Pesach. Or you're going to bear your sin, you and your household. Because when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the unfading crown of kabod. That's why you need Yahushua Mashiach and keep the Pesach. Right? If everybody in your house is just rebellious, you still got to do it. You know why? So you can cover them in Yahushua's blood. Because if you don't do it, then you know what happens? Then everybody in your household is in trouble. I had to divorce that woman. He's like, if you don't keep the Pesach, didn't Yahushua do the Pesach for the woman he divorced? Oh yeah, you talking about Yashral Yehuda? He said, I put them people away in divorcement, right? Not even understanding that if you don't keep the Pesach, how are you going to help them out? How is that going to work for you in your household? Because Yahuwah had a rebellious house from the beginning. They've been rebels for 6,000 years. You can't. He said, man, how long have I been alive? I ain't been alive that long. Yahushua said, I've been doing with y'all for over thousands of years, and you can't do how long? So that's how Yahuwah math works. People say, my math is off. He said, no, that's how Yahuwah math is. That's how it works. Being examples of the flock, and when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive an unfading crown of kabod. Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to the elders, right? To the older people. Why? Because they're older. Clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility toward one another. Now you see why he said those who humble themselves came to the Pesach in the second month. Toward one another, for Elohim opposes the proud. So please don't be thinking, oh, I'm a proud. He said, I ain't humble. He knew Yahuwah going to oppose you. He said, I'm going to oppose you every day. Like Dawid said, in the sunrise, he rebuked me every morning. And gives con to the humble. Now you see why he gave him a second chance during he said second month. That's why you get the 14th day in between the suns and you keep it for 7 days. And if you feel like another 7 days and another 7, that's why he does it. If you stay humble, knew. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of Elohim, so that at the appointed time he may exalt you. He may exalt you, Cain. Casting all your anxieties because he cares for you, Cain. Because of you who didn't cleanse themselves properly. Be sober-minded, right? Be watchful when you do that. Where you get taught that? In Pesach. This is not much watching, right? So you're literally being taught how to do it properly. That's what Pesach is. Be watchful. That's what ayin is. Your adversary, Satan, prowls around like a roaring lion. You mean the cat got your tongue. You know what they say? The cat got your tongue. You know how they say? The cat got your tongue. Seeking someone to devour. The cat got your tongue. Resist him firm in your amunah. Why? Your belief. the debar, the word of Yahuwah, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. And after you have suffered a little while, Elohim of Khan, who has called you to eternal kabod in Mashiach, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. Right? Dead Sea Scrolls 4Q 257. However, the Ruach says, and the visitation of those who walk in it will be abundance affliction by the hand of the Malachia, destruction, and eternal damnation, and the scorching wrath, Elohim that revenges, the permanent terror and shame without end, the humiliation and destruction, and the fire of the dark regions. In all the ages of generations, they shall spend in bitter weeping and harsh evils in the abyss of darkness until destruction, without there being a remnant or survival for them. Right? This is Psalms 116, 1 through 19. I love Yahuwah because he has heard my voice and my pleas for mercy. That's all this is about. Mercy. Because he inclined his ear to me, therefore I will call on him as long as I live. Why would you not? Who you going to call on? Ghostbusters? You going to call on something else? Right? The snare of death encompassed me. The pains of Sheol laid hold on me. That's why Satan is like a roaring lion. I suffered distress and anguish. You deserved it. Because you did not keep the commandments, right? So therefore, you suffer. Why do you think the same afflictions is encompassing your brother? Because you have to understand. Then I called on the name of Yahuwah. Yahuwah, I pray, deliver my soul. Gracious, right, is you, Yahuwah, and righteous are Elohim is merciful. Yahuwah preserves the simple. When I was brought low, he saved me. When you humble yourself. Return, O my soul, to your rest, for Yahuwah has dealt bountifully with you. For you have delivered my soul from death, my eyes from tears, my feet from stumbling. I will walk before Yahuwah in the land of the living. Punished, but not killed. You know, Shaul will say, punished, but not killed, though. I believe even when I spoke, I am greatly afflicted. I said in my alarm, all mankind are kazab, are liars. That's how you know you. I rose on the third day. I've been here. It's been about 15 days since I've risen. But all mankind are liars. I'm the only one that, because Yahushua's name is faithful and true, right? He's faithful and true. Right? He ain't never told no lie, right? So therefore, all y'all liars. And he said, I cleaned my oil out of my tent. I'm purified. He's lying. So you saying I'm a liar? What shall I render to Yahuwah for all his benefits to me? There's no way in the world you could have done this. There's no way in the world you could have had an opportunity with Yahushua Mashiach. There's no way in the world. You couldn't have done it. There's nobody could do it. Who gonna do it? I will lift up the cup of Yeshua and call on the name of Yahuwah. Why he gonna do that? He said, well, I'm gonna lift up the cup of Yeshua. We already talked about equals to 13, but the same thing as this month. So, amazingly, he said, I'm gonna lift up the cup when you do that. Then Pasach, as often as you do this, you remember my death and suffering till I come. And call upon the enemy, I will pay my vows to Yahuwah in the presence of all his people. And guess what? Precious in the sight of Yahuwah is the death of his faithful ones, his Kassid. Why do you think he was? Why do you think Yahushua was? It was a precious death for you. Matter of fact, that blood that he shed was precious for you too. Yahuwah, I am your Abad, I am your Abad. My Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? He cried out again, second Pasach. I am your Abad. I'm your Abad in the first Pasach. I am your Abad in the second. The son of the maid of your maid servant. You know, Maureen. You have loosed my bonds. I will offer to you the sacrifice of thanksgiving and call on the name of Yahuwah. He said, I'm going to do that. I will pay my vows to Yahuwah in the presence of all his people. What do you think Pasach is? in the courts of the house of Yahuwah in your midst, O Jerusalem, praise Yahuwah. He said, we ain't got Jerusalem. But he said, know ye not that your body is the temple of Yahuwah. That's why he was speaking about the Malkuth for 40 days. He said that often as you do this, you remember my death and suffering. So that word for saints in that verse is Kassid. Precious are in the sight of the death of the Kassid, the kind ones, the godly ones, the Qahalath ones, the Qahdush ones, the faithful ones, the kind, the merciful. Right? The merciful. Why do you think Yahushua was so merciful? You gotta be merciful, right? Where's the book of Psalms, Talim 32, 6-9. Therefore, let everyone who is Kassid offer prayer to you at the time he may be found. As long as you're alive, Yahuwah is found, if you want to seek him. But once it's over with, surely in the rush of great waters they shall not reach him. You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance. Why do you think the people were joyful? Do you understand you couldn't even do this? I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. Yahushua rose on the 16th day, even on the 17th day. He appeared to the disciples on the 18th day. Then they kept assault the 21st day. Michael was saying they were fighting against me for 21 days. Then Daniel saw a vision on the 24th day. Then you weighed the sheaf. Then what? Yahushua was seen 40 days. Then they kept Pesach in the second month for 7 days. That means from the first day all the way to the 14th day, they had to cleanse themselves. They had to cleanse themselves out again. And then they kept Pesach again. And then they did another 7 days. Yahushua was with them for 40 days. And then after they finished all that, Yahushua's like, man, don't even leave Jerusalem until you get the power. That's the whole point. You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. And I will counsel you with my eye upon you. He's like, I'm just counseling you. He said, you ain't got to do anything. He said, I'm just counseling you along the way. Be not like the horse and the mule without understanding. So you think Yahuwah don't want nobody to understand all this? To get that second chance to say, you know what? I'm going to keep the Pesach. That's all he wants a person to do. I just want you to do it. You see all the people who already did it? He's like, I just want you to do it. That's all he wants you to do. I want you to return to me, and I'll return to you. Which must be curbed with bits and bridle, or it will not stay near you. He said, man, ain't no way. Why do you think all the people stay near Yahushua? They said that word for godly, of course, it's Kassid, the same thing. Kassid, Qahalath, faithful ones, kind ones, right? That's all the same, right? This is Psalms Tahalim 137, 7-11. Be still before Yahuwah and wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself over the one who prospers in the way, over the man who carries out evil devices. Man, you carrying out evil works. Refrain from anger. Don't do it. And forsake wrath. What you angry for? Fret not yourself. It tends only to evil. That's what anger does. Don't even get angry. Stay humble. Don't even get angry. For evildoers shall be cut off. Now you see why he said, I'm going to cut them people off who don't keep Pesach. He said, I'm going to cut them off. I can't have them people. Why? Because my wrath is against them. They more caring about their prosperity and their money more than they are about me. That's why he said you can't serve Yahuwah and money. That's why they did it for 7 days and then another for 7 days. He said we just did it for a whole another 7 days. He's like, that's 777. That's 21 days. Extra. He's like, what? You know how much money I'm gonna lose? I ain't gonna be able to do nothing. Think about that. Now you see why people say, why 72 walked out from Yahushua Mashiach? He said, why you hear that? There's a reason why. It ain't got nothing to do with what you think. And people like, man, this way, eat your flesh and drink your blood. And you talking about we can't do this and that. Man, I got to go. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait for Yahuwah shall inherit the Aydah. That's what the people who are going to get it. Those who wait for Yahuwah. In just a little while, the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place, he will not be there. But the meek, the Aydah, shall inherit the Eretz and delight themselves in the abundance of shalom. That's what these days, that's what this whole time is. These 40 days, these 50 days, this Omer account, right? It's a time of what? To delight yourselves in the abundance of peace. Because you are Aydah, you meek. You should be. And you inherit the Eretz. Right? So that word for the meek is Aydah. The poor, the humble, the ones who were humble and kept the Pesach in the second month and 14th day in between the sons and kept it for 7 days. And they did it in the second, because they were on a long journey, they were unclean by a dead body. That was everybody. But then you see another time when the priests didn't even properly cleanse themselves on the sanctuary, and they still did it, and they didn't do it properly. And he's like, you wasn't cleansing yourself properly. He said, do it again in the second month. Why? Because everybody, the ones who did do it properly, they weren't cleansed properly. They sprinkled the people. Matter of fact, we'll do this thing for you. Matter of fact, we'll sprinkle you. Because you weren't cleansed properly the first time, we'll sprinkle you. That's why you think Yahushua was here for 40 days. That's all he's doing. He's just sprinkling you with blood because you couldn't keep the Pesach if you wanted to, right? Even if you tried, you're like, man, I did this thing right. He's like, here goes some blood. I just sprinkled over you. That's what Yahushua did. He said, you were redeemed not with corruptible things, silver and gold. Because remember, redeemed with corruptible things, silver and gold. When you had to keep Pesach, they were not working. They were not doing these things, so they would lose money. But the people who didn't, they would go and make money. They would go to their barns and all that stuff. But he said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to redeem you with silver and gold. But they thought they were being redeemed with silver and gold by not keeping Pesach. He's like, you know what? I'm going to redeem you with the precious blood. I know you ain't do it. But here's your opportunity to do it. And if you don't do it, matter of fact, there's another time we did it too. You see, Yahushua got so much kind. And he say grace. He like, I don't want nobody to die. I'm patient toward all men that none should perish. All should come to what? Repentance. Poor, humble, afflicted, meek, poor, needy, humble, lowly, meek. You gotta stay lowly. You gotta stay meek. You gotta stay poor. He mean poor, because that's what's going to happen. He said, what do you mean, Barak of the poor and Ruach? Because the kingdom of Elohim comes not with observation. The poor and Ruach. For the Malkuth is within you. So, of course, you're going to be poor in Ruach because you don't know nothing about it. I don't know nothing about this. I know. That's why he said, you're not able to bear the ark, the Nasa, because you know what's in the innermost parts of your house. You know, you got Aaron Harun's rod, that buddy, you got the Mon, you got the 10 Commandments in the side. Right, you got all types of the testimony, the Aydah inside of the ark, right? You can open it up, right? He said you can't carry it. So that means you pour in Ruach, which means, man, it's a treasure chest. You know the ark is a treasure chest. It's a money chest. So that means you ain't got enough in there. You're like, man, I ain't rich yet. Barak all the pour in Ruach. Let me get some more, put some more money in there. Man, that thing getting filled up now. And now you carry it, it's like, man, it ain't heavy either. You know, you be like, man, I'm rich. Man, this thing ain't even heavy either. You know, usually in the natural world, you fill it up with a bunch of coins. You can't carry that thing. But it says humble, meek, lowly, saintly. You know, they make up words, right? This Nazarene action to Shalakim, chapter 15, how demons get power over men. Therefore, demons, as we have just said, when once they have been able, by means of opportunities afforded to convey themselves through base and evil actions into the bodies of men, women, and children, if they remain in them a long time through their own negligence, you say, whose fault is that? The head of them each is Yahuwah. The man is supposed to wash with continually washing of the debar given by the Son, because he takes what is mine, he only declare it to you. Then the children get taught by the Isha. And everybody get what? Warned about the demons and the things that one needs to do to get out of their body and out of their tent. And if you don't do it, if you despise wisdom and nurture, Ish, your wives are foolish and your children wicked, as the book of Sirach says. And that's just the truth. If they remain in them a long time through their own negligence because they do not seek after, isn't that what we just read? About the second Passat. They don't seek after what is profitable for their inner beings. He spoke 40 days about the Malkuth and the kingdom of Elohim, because not with observation, it's within inside of you. If any man gonna find his Shadim demon, you gotta go inside. They necessarily compel them in the future to fulfill the desires of the demons who dwell in them. So all those behaviors and the things that you do, and all the plots and schemes and lying and evil joking, obscene talk from your mouth, all the wicked things you say, all the things that you have in your heart and your mind, the bitterness and the resentment, all these things are demons that's trying to rise up. The kingdom gates of Sheol trying to take over your mind and your heart and your mind and to rule you again. And govern you again. That's why they carry your body. They use your body to fulfill the... And you people be thinking like things are flying around. No, they're inside of you. They're in you. That's all it is. But what is worst of all, at the end of the age, when the demon will be co-signed, the ageless fire of necessity, the Ruach also that obeyed him, will with him be tortured in ageless fires together with his body it has polluted. Notice they tell you pollution. There's a generation that's cleaning their own eyes. They ain't do it right. They ain't clean their body. They haven't been rakats, right? They haven't been washed from their filthiness. That's why you need fire. That's the only way ayin ish lapid. That's why he said ish, right? Fire together with his own body, it has polluted, right? Because it's going to pollute you. Romans 12:1. I appeal to you, therefore, men, women, and children, right? By the mercies of Yahuwah, to present your bodies a living sacrifice, Qahalath and acceptable to Yahuwah. So when Yahuwah came to Cain and Abel, what did he say? He said, you must rule over it. You. If you do well, will you not be accepted? You. You think it was about the offerings? You think it was about the dead offering that Abel brought? That thing was dead. He cut the fat he brought up there. You think it was about that? You think about some fruit that's going to perish in about 3-4 days after you put it on the altar? You talking about that? That stuff is going to die. He said, present your bodies as a living sacrifice, which means you got to cleanse the Eyul out of your tent, out of your vestibule, out of your Eyulam. You have to go in your temple and remove the filth out of your house, your Talmud, the trifling kulala, the kulal out of your heart and your mind. You have to go into your body and present it a living sacrifice. That's the sacrifice that's going to be accepted. You are that sacrifice, not your food that you put in your offering that you offer that's going to perish. Your body is the living sacrifice, because Yahuwah is the Elohim of the living and not of the dead. You are the living sacrifice. Qahalath and acceptable to Yahuwah. That's the whole point of this whole thing, which is your spiritual worship. Your spiritual worship. So which one are you first? Which one are you first? Oh, you mean you're a carnal first? No. You're a Ruach being if you're born by the Ruach. How do you know that? Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Because you know the world is all about conformity. And the more they force you to be conforming, comfortable. That's what conformity is. They want you to be comfortable in conformity. And when you conform, then you are comfortable. And then your mind can't be renewed. It will be renewed by the world's mind. And then you won't be able to transform your mind. And then guess what? That by testing, you may discern what is the will of Yahuwah. You won't be able to know what is good and acceptable and perfect. That's what Cain couldn't do. He said, I couldn't do that. What is the will of Yahuwah? What's good and acceptable and perfect? Be therefore perfect, unit Shaman is perfect, but I didn't cleanse properly according to the sanctuary, the body, how I'm supposed to cleanse myself. And Yahusha still died and gave me opportunity, and he sprinkled me with blood. He covered me in his blood, even though I didn't do it properly. Even though I did Passat, and that's everybody. But Yahusha still is the head, and he still sprinkled you with his blood and covered your house and everything in it. How is that even possible? Philippians 3:12-21. Now, not that I have already obtained this or am already perfect. This is Shaul. You know, everybody quotes these, right? But I press on to make it my own, because Mashiach Yahusha has made it me his own. Because he bought, he purchased, he redeemed. I do not consider that I have made it my own, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind. He said, now you gotta forget. He said, man, he said, you gotta forget that. You know how he said? You gotta forget everything you did. Even the past 5 days, 6 days, last month, right? The last 32 days. And straining forward to what lies ahead. What's ahead? Forget about what's behind. He's like, man, there's a whole bunch of things ahead I gotta know. That I may have to perform, right? All these are a part of it. I press on to the goal of the prize of the upward call of Yahuwah in Mashiach Yahusha. This is the upward call. Let those who are mature. So are you a mature? I'm a mature individual. Are you a mature human being? Think this way. Or are you still not forgetting what lies behind? Because if you're mature, you would have forgot those things already. If anyone thinks otherwise, if in anything you think otherwise, Yahuwah will reveal that also to you. Only let us hold true to what we have attained. Man, woman, children, join in imitating me. That's what Shaul was saying. And keep your eyes on those who walk according to the example you have in us. Why? Because the only reason he's doing it to this Goyim nation is because they were purchased by Yahusha's blood. And the original tribe of Benjamin that Shaul is from are the heads of the tribes that they supposed to follow. And if you don't do it, the Pesach, what are they going to follow? If you saying you are Yashua in the 12 tribe, you're not circumcised and you ain't doing the Pesach the way it's supposed to, and cleaning Ayul out of your tent, out of your body, what are they going to follow? So who fault was that? You can go, you say you can make 1,000 videos, you know, people say about what people ain't going to do. But for some reason, you ain't doing it either. Ain't that something? You ain't even cleansing your body and your tent and all that filth and those spiritual demons out of your heart. You know? And you on trying to tell other people what they need to do. This is why Yahuwah is telling you, you might want to look at it one more time. For many of whom I have often told you, and I tell you with tears, walk as enemies of the cross of Mashiach, because they don't do this stuff properly. Their end is destruction. We just read in this he say the Dead Sea Scroll 4Q257. They're gonna get destruction. Their idol is their belly. You know what we had to do from the first day to the 14th day of the first month, and the 16th to the 16th day. You know what we had to do. You know what we had to do all the way to the 25th day. They love to eat. They body, he said, man, they is their belly, and their kabod is their shame. He's like, they love to slander. They love to gossip and lie. They love to do that stuff and eat at the same time. With their mind set on earthly things. See? Earthly things. Human things. But our citizenship is in the Shamayim. This is why you need people to sock. That's the first Shamayim. So is your citizenship, the only way, remember, we had to register the people in the second month. He had to register them from each head of the tribes. And he had to register them. And by registering them, their citizenship in the Shamayim, that they did Pesach, because that's the first Shamayim. That's why the Isha, and the children, once they get registered, he kept Pesach covered his home, your citizen register is in this first Shamayim, in the Shamayims. You're not on. How you say? That's where you are. And from it, we await a Savior or a Yasha or Yashu, the Master, Yahushua Mashiach, who will transform our lowly body. That's why you got to stay Einu. You got to stay Einu, meek, because you're going to inherit the Adats. You have to stay that way. You got to stay humble. That's why they kept keep a sock over and over again. As often as you do this, you remember my death and suffering till I come. Endeavoring to keep the unity in your household, in your family, in your Aydah. Endeavoring to keep the unity of Emunah. In order to do that, you got to stay lowly. You got to stay Einu. You got to stay humble. If you don't stay humble, then everything's going to be destroyed. Transform our lowly body to be like his Aydah, or magnificent body. That word for magnificent or glorious body is Aydah. His Aydah body. Why would he say that? By the power, by the power that enables him to subject all things to himself. How is he able to do that? How is he able to subject all things to himself? Right? This is the book of Exodus, Shemuth, chapter 15, 6 through 12. Your right hand, that word for right hand is Yamim. Why would he put a meme with a yod? Why would he put a meme with a yod for that word for right hand? Your right hand, Yahuwah, right? Your glory, Yahuwah, glorious, or Adar, or Adar is the power, is your koach. Is your koach. Glorious, or Adar, is in power, is your koach. Right? He's saying, we just read it in the book of Philippians. He talked about how glorious, your magnificent, or he say your Adar, are his glorious body. With the power who's able to subject things because that power is his koach. It says your right hand, right? You got another right hand, Yamin with his right hand. Why we put a yod with a meme? Yahuwah shatters the enemy. He subjects them to his authority with his yod and meme. His open right hand and his water, because he's going to wash you. Yahukanan immersed you with water. But guess what? In the greatness of your majesty, you overthrow your adversaries. You send out your fury, it consumes them like stubble. How he do that? At the blast of your nostrils, the waters piled up. That's why he put a meme with his yod. How you gonna get immersed with water if you ain't got no water? See, I need some water. Okay. That's why he put a yod with a meme with his yod in the first verse. Your right hand, he put a yod with a meme. Yamim, he said your waters piled up. That's what it means. It says the flood stood up in a heap. That's what Yamim is, with a yod and a meme. He used his yod, brought out some water. And guess what? The deeps congealed the heart in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue. That's what they said today. You're going to keep pursuing? You're going to keep trying to take me down. I will overtake. That's what you believe. I will divide the spoil. You're going to take everything I got. My desire shall have its full fill of them. That's what you believe. You're going to take everything. I will draw my sword. My hand shall destroy them. That's what you believe, though. That's what you believe. You're going to destroy them. Even though Yahushua died, rose, he covered in his blood. Even though the person ain't clean, you're like, man, he ain't. Well, guess what? Yahushua already covered. So what you going to do now? You blew with your wind, the sea covered them. Uh-oh. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. He said, I don't think you want to mess with him. He said, I don't think you want to mess with Yahushua Mashiach. Because he's going to use the power that he subjects everybody to. And that's his Yamim, his Yah, Who is like you, Yahuwah? So you think Yahuwah is among the gods? Who is like you? Who is like you, majestic in Kudash, awesome in glorious, or Aydah deeds, doing wonders? Who is like you? You stretch out your right hand, or Yamim again. That word for right hand is Yamim. The earth swallowed them. He says, so you want to screw with him? No. You don't want to mess with his children. You mean Cain, though. Remember, he said, he that slayed Cain, I'm gonna get you sevenfold. So I think you should leave people alone. Right? You know, they ain't repent yet. Let me go online and slander them. No. Let me go online and do this. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me do it. No. Hold off. Right? Don't even do that. Never. Don't judge nothing before the time, right? Because everything you need to work out your own. They say, make sure you work out your own salvation, because you're gonna mess up. He says the earth swallowed them. Right. So I suggest you don't touch them. Sevenfold, right? You read number seven vials, 7 bowls, and them 7 Turahs. I suggest you don't do that. You have led in your steadfast love the people whom you have redeemed. And I see why you think Yahushua is here for 40 days. He's leading them, the people he redeemed, right? He's showing them the way, how to get back and get the power. The Koach. Because a wise man is full of strength. A man enhances his knowledge and enhances his might, his Koach. Why do you think he's enhancing the Koach? His might, his understanding. That's why he used my Yamin. He said, man, he painted floods in the heart of the sea. He opened the earth and swallowed them up. Guess what? You have led in your steadfast love the people whom you have redeemed. Who is that? Yasharal. He purchased the strangers in the nation. He purchased them with his blood. He redeemed us. You have guided them by the strength of your Kudash, by your strength to your Kudash abode. That's the whole point. He says, so why do you do that? Right, that word for glorious is Aydah, Aydah, right? It means to be great. Isn't that what we just read in the book of Philippians? Aydah, to be great, majestic. It means what? To be great, to expand, to be honorable, magnificent. Magnificent body, right? Glorious, honorable, expand, to be great. That's the expectation. To be Aydah, to be great, to be magnificent. And he's gonna do it with the same power he subjects everything in his authority. With his Yamin, his Yad and his Meen, with the 10th letter of the alphabet. He said, why he be using the 10th letter of the alphabet and the 13th letter of the alphabet? What that got to do with anything? Oh yeah, he got a lot to do with everything. He said he used that 10th letter of the alphabet and that 13th letter of the alphabet and messed some stuff up. People think, he said, man, you can do that with just 2 alphabets? He just did that with 2 alphabets. So what do you think he's going to do if he use all 22? So if he used all 22, what do you think going to happen to you? He just did that with just 2 of them. 2 of them. Why do you think he had 2 hands? They say, behold my hands and my side. And we told Tom, he only used 2. He's like, you see what I just did? And people say, yeah. But yeah, that word for glorious is Aydah. Right? So that word for gods, who is like you, Yahuwah, among the gods? That word for gods is all. Right? They put El. You know, they put El, right? You could put that. You could say El. And most people, they see this right here, they be thinking like some food, a steak. Ale house. You know how they say ale house? Everything is steak because their God is their belly. You know, we just read their God is their belly and their kabod is their shame. They be thinking like an ale house. Who's among you among the ale, the gods, right? Give me a steak, give me an ale house, right? That's what they would think. Because that's the programming of your mind, right? But that word for el is God, the God-like one, the mighty. Who is like Yahuwah, right? Because Why do you think he say he judges in the midst of the Elohim, the gods? See, I got to put these guys in check. Hold up, I got Psalms 82. I got to put these guys in check. That's why he did in Yucca 9:10. I got to tell these guys, no. But it also means who's among the heroes, the Malachim are gods, people. People say what? The gods, false gods, are gods. Demons are gods. He said, man, yeah, demons are gods. Who is like Yahuwah among the demons? Nobody. Your imaginations, right? That's what a God is. Your God, your imaginations can be a God over your life. Your own thoughts. It means mighty things in nature. Man, who in all of nature itself, what God in all of nature is greater than Yahuwah himself? Not one of them. So why would you worship him? Why would you give him the praise and the kabod? Why would you honor? Why would you give him all that your strength and power? Right? And all your strength and power goes to them. Why would you do that? It means if any deity, right? Right? And that's all. That's a part of it, right? So that word for wonders, it says, "Who is like Yahuwah among the El, the demons, the gods? Who is like you, majestic in Kudash, awesome in Aydah, deeds doing wonders?" That word for wonders is Pele or Pala. Yeah, that's why you need to believe on Yahuwah with all your heart, mind, soul. Or you're in a worshiping Pele or Pala. And you be in wonders that he does. And they're not even knowing you were worshiping another God, another Elohim. So who is like Yahuwah among the El, the Allah, the All, doing wonders? And then you'll find yourself, it means what? A wonder, a marvel, extraordinary, hard to understand a thing, wonders. Who can do that? Who can make all of these people nothing and make him put Yahuwah at the top of all of them? Who can do that? A miracle. He said, who is the only miracle? He said, a miracle, a marvelous thing, a wonder. He said, oh, you'd be worshiping them. You be worshiping a statue. You be worshiping something that can't hear, speak, or talk. You be worshiping a singer. And all these things that people throw at you, and athletes. You be worshiping actors. You be worshiping yourself. You be worshiping your own image and likeness. But it says, majestic and awesome is in Adar, deeds doing wonders. Who is like Yahuwah among the gods? The El, the All. Who is like you, majestic in Kudash? So who is the only one Kudash? Awesome in glory, or Adar. Magnificent deeds, your magnificent or Adar deeds, doing wonders. Who is like? Or you think it's Pele or Palam? No, wonders, the word wonders is not greater than Yahuwah himself, who made the Pa, the Lamed, and the Aleph. And this is all a part of it, right? So that word for who this is Exodus 22 and 20. Whoever sacrifices to any Elohim other than Yahuwah alone shall be devoted to destruction. Anybody. So if you don't want to do Pesach and you want to do the things you're supposed to do and remember his death and suffering as often as you do it, and you sacrifice any other Elohim other than Yahuwah, he said, shall be devoted to destruction. The Malachim of destruction and the fire of the dark regions, without the abyss and the visitation of those. And you will be, they say, be punished. And it's really that simple. It means that word for Sacrifices is a bach. Whosoever to slaughter, to kill, to sacrifice, the slaughter, sacrifice, slaughter before eating, slaughter for divine judgment, to sacrifice, to offer sacrifice, to slaughter an animal, usually in to kill, offer, to slay. To any other Elohim, other than Yahuwah alone, shall be devoted to destruction. Why do you think Yahuwah said, "For Elohim so loved the world that He gave His only Son, that whosoever believes in Him shall not perish, or he won't be devoted to destruction, but have everlasting life." For Elohim did not send His Son in the world to condemn the world, but that the world through in Him might be saved. But guess what we did? We killed Yahusha in the name of the Roman Caesar. Because we have no other king but Caesar, right? You know how they said it. And they sacrificed to another god, and they killed Yahusha in between the suns on the 14th day. Then Yahusha cried out twice and said, "You know what? I'm going to give you another Pesach. Because none of y'all cleanse yourself properly, and none of you were cleansed from a dead body. Because all of you have blood get on you. But not even knowing it was only given to you for Yahushua Mashiach to continue his work after he arose on the third day. And then after the cog was over, he still stayed for 40 days after he rose from the grave, and he appeared on the fourth day. And he was letting them know by many proofs in the breaking of bread and cog matzah, unleavened bread. That's what he was breaking. The unleavened bread that he was breaking was all to show his unleavened life and his sinless life. That he had no leaven in his tent, in his ayil, in his house. That's the whole point of it. This is Romans 8, 6 through 11. For to set your mind on things of the flesh is death. Why do you think Yahushua died? Because everybody was setting their mind on things of the flesh. And it brought death to him. Why do you think they died? Why do you think Yahushua was sacrificed? He said, man, you know in the beginning, Yahuwah gave every herb-eating seed bearing fruit for food for Adam and for the animals too. For to set your mind on the flesh is death. Because you're going to have to kill to get it. How else are you going to do that? But to set your mind on the Ruach is life and shalom. That's why you got to set your mind on things above. You got to. How you going to get life and shalom if you don't set your mind on the Ruach? That's where Yahushua is. Yahusha's life is in the Ruach. Life and shalom. If you don't understand his life in the Ruach, life is kayit and peace. For the mind that is set on the flesh is hostile to Elohim. You're hostile. You be like, I ain't hostile to Yahuwah. Yeah, you is. For it does not submit to Yahuwah's law. Now you see why he was saying, humble yourself. Please. I got another one. I got another one too, if you want to keep doing it. Humble yourselves. Submit to Yahuwah's law. Indeed, it cannot. Those who are of the flesh cannot please Yahuwah. You, however, are not of the flesh, but in the Ruach. If in fact the Ruach of Yahuwah dwells in you, anyone who does not have the Ruach of Mashiach does not belong to him. But if Mashiach Yahushua is in you, although the body is dead because of sin, the Ruach is life because of righteousness. It'd be our righteousness if we keep his commandments, right? If the Ruach of him who raised up Yahushua from the dead dwells in you, you know, the Arun, rise up, Yahuwah, and let your enemies be scattered. Kum Yahuwah. He who raised Mashiach Yahushua from the dead will also give life to your mortal body through his Ruach who dwells in you. Right, so this is Aleph Yukanan 1, 2, 24 to 28. Let what you heard from the beginning abides in you. And if what you heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Son, the life of the house, and the Father, the strength of the house. That's why he said, make a register for the sons and the fathers. The sons over 20 years old, and all the way and up, and the fathers. In this first day of the second month. And this is because you're in his household. You are the big family in the son and the father's household. And you are the Aydah, the servants. And the chief, when the chief son, the chief shepherd appears, you will receive a crown in his house. And this is the promise he has made to us, eternal life, because the promise of the priest, the Kohanim, is Yahuwah. And they eat the food offering, and guess what? And all of the promises. I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you. They're trying to mess you up. But the anointing that you have received in him abides in you. You have no need that anyone should teach you. But the anointing teaches you about everything, and is true, and is no lie, just as it has taught you, abide in him. And now, little children, abide in him, so that you, when he appears, you may have confidence, and not shrink from him in shame at his coming. He says, so why is this important? This is Rock 3:17-28. My son and daughter, I say man, woman, and child. Man, woman, and child. Go on thy business in in meekness. So shall I be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. You got to stay humble. Amen. And thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. You get mercy. You get mercy. Many are in high places of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the meek. Amen. For the power, you mean the Yamin? The Yamin? The power of Yahuwah is great. That thing, you want to mess with him? The Yamin, he may float with his stomach with the heat. He make the earth open and swallow you up. If you keep pursuing, because you think you're going to take him and you finna delight in their spoil, you finna take him down. I know you believe it. You believe, I'm going to take you down. I know you believe it, but it's not going to happen. I promise you that. You might want to turn around and go back the other way. Or you might want to join and get your life in order and get your heart and your mind right, so you can be outside of Yahuwah's Yamin. For the power of Yahuwah is great, because you know what Yamin, he say, man, when he say, sit here on my right hand until I make thy enemies thy footstool. And people say, why he say that? He said, I'm going to put them under subjection with this same Yamin, under my authority, right? That's what he's going to do. And he is honored with the lowly. That's why you got to stay lowly. He's honored with the lowly people. You got to stay in a low state, lowly. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. You know good and well you can't carry that. That's why he say, cast your cares upon me, for he cares for you. You can't carry that art like that. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence, for it is not evil for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. Be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men, women, and children understand. Right? Right, so this is the last thing, and I'm done. This is Odes of Solomon. Ode Shalom. Odes of Solomon, chapter 11. Odes of Solomon, chapter 11, in verse 1. And it says, my heart was pruned, and its flower appeared. Oh, you mean that's what this is? And that's the second month, the month of Zoe, that they say Ziph, the month of flowers. It's a month of flowers. My heart was pruned and the flower appeared, and Khan sprang up in it. What do you think this second month is? What do you think the second Pesach is? It's just mercy, and more mercy, and more mercy. He that slayed Cain sevenfold, more mercy. More mercy, more mercy. And guess what? And it produced fruits for Yahuwah. How is you going to get fruits? Right? You need brightness. That's what this month is. For the Most High circumcised me by his Qahalath Ruach. Now you see why he says you're going to be Rakhatz by the Qahalath Ruach. Then he uncovered my inward being. Now you see why he talked about the Malkuth is not with observation, or he say viewing you, be within you. They that mature will think this way. Why? Because the inward man is the transformation. And he says, uncover my inward being toward him and fill me with his love. What do you think they were doing it for 14 days? They just kept going. As often as you do this, remember my death and suffering till I come. That's his love. And his circumcising became my salvation, my Yeshua. And I ran in the way of peace. He's like, man, I'm running to this thing. That's what shalom is. And in the way of truth. That's why Yahushua said, on the way, the truth, and the life. Why do you think he said he the prince, the Nasi of the Sar, the Nagid of Shalom? That's what he is. From the beginning unto the end, I received his knowledge. He said from the beginning. From the first day of the first month. All the way to the day. I assure you, you need to receive his knowledge. Because it's going to enhance your koach. Because a wise man is strong, full of strength. But a man that increases knowledge enhances his koach. His strength, his might, his yard. And guess what? And I was established upon a rock of truth. Because we just talked about you could build a house. He said a wise man built his house on a rock. And then what Shalom did he say? Man, it was like quarry stones, but you didn't even need no tools and no hammer, no nothing was heard. And guess what? Where he had set me. And guess what? And speaking waters touched my lips. They did what? They touched my lips. Why do you think he said, man, you immersed with water, man. You're gonna be hot, washed with the Kudash Ruach. Why do you think he sent the flood waters in the book of Exodus with his Yamin and floods and waters? And he opened the mouth and swallowed all those who pursued. Why do you think he did that? Speaking waters touched my lips as rain and snow come down from Shamayim. And the spring, from the spring of Yahuwah generously. That's all this is. Because Yahuwah generous. He give a lot. And so I drank and became intoxicated. What do you usually get intoxicated with? Wine, yaim, right? You get wine on you. You get intoxicated. He said, but I'm intoxicated for some reason with some water. What this water is? And the living waters that does not die. So that's why. Now you see why he ain't take. Now you see why he said Elohim is the Elohim of the living. Present your body a living sacrifice. Because I'm putting living things inside of you, living water, that you may stay living. Why would I want something dead, some fruit that's going to die in like 3 days? Why would I want an animal that's been cut open with fat? No, I'm looking at the body. Present your body as a living sacrifice. You. And my intoxication was not with ignorance, but I abandoned vanity. Now you see why it says you can't serve Yahuwah in money. That's why he said you're not redeemed with corruptible things, silver, gold, copper, right? All the things that you can attain in this life, property, lands, all these things, wealth that you can boast. Go into 2 more verses. And turned toward the Most High Yahuwah, my Elohim, and was enriched by his favors. And I abandoned folly. Because there's a generation that's cleansed, rahats, but they ain't been washed. They clean in their own eyes, though. And I abandoned folly and cast upon the earth and stripped it off and cast it from me. That's why we had to clean Aydah out of your tent. He said, you know what rose back up? He said, you need to throw that stuff away. He said, man, you ever threw something away real fast? And Yahuwah renewed me with his garment, you see 8. He said, or. Start with an ayin. Put on your tikfarah, your beautiful garments, O Psalm. Yahuwah renewed me with his garment. That's why I say be renewed in the ruach of your mind. You be not conformed to the world. And possess me by his light, his or. And from above he gave me an immortal rest. And I became like the land which blossoms and rejoice in its fruits. You became like a field of flowers. You become like the field of flowers. People say, go sit in the field of flowers. If you did everything properly, that's you. And Yahuwah is like the sun. And I see why the second one is like brightness. It's called Zoh. It's called Ziv. It's brightness. And upon the face of the land, my eyes were enlightened, my iron, and my face received the dew. He said, man, how the trees grow and it don't be raining? But all of a sudden they just turn green. They be drinking the dew of the ground. Every single morning there's dew on the ground. And then those trees suck it up for some reason. And they stay green. But for some reason, man, how come I ain't got that living water that can never go away? Because they just be like, we get water every day. You may not see it, but you ain't under the ground though. You can't see where we get our water from. My breath was refreshed by the pleasant fragrance of Yahuwah. And he took me to his paradise wherein is the wealth of Yahuwah's pleasure. And I contemplated blooming and fruit-bearing trees. And self-grown was their crown. Their branches were flourishing, and their fruits were shining. That's what this is, brightness month, right? Their roots were from an immortal land. He said, so where your roots at? In this natural world? That's why he said that was born of flesh is flesh, that was born of ruach is ruach. He said your roots in an immortal land, it's in another world. And guess what? And a river of gladness was irrigating them. He said it's an immortal world. It's a river of gladness irrigating them. And the region around them in the land of eternal life. That's why I said you need to be registered in the Shamayim. He said, that's what the first Shamayim. What do you think Pesach is? No one is a Yehudi, which is merely one outward and physical. Right? But the Yehudi is one inwardly. Whose praise is not of men, not of any other El or God, but of Yahuwah himself. Because anybody who offers sacrifice to any other Elohim is devoted to destruction. So why would I do that? That makes no sense. It says, then I adored Yahuwah because of his magnificence, or you mean his Aydah. You know, his magnificent, glorious Yad, Yamim in his right hand. And guess what? And I said, Barak, O Yahuwah, are they who are planted in your land. And what? And who have a place in your paradise. And who grow in the growth of your trees. Your trees. Who trees these are? You know, they be cutting them down and everything, destroying them. Here in the natural world, what do you think they want to do with you in the spiritual world? You think they don't keep no trees here? You think they want your trees in the Ruach world? You think they want you to grow in your Ruach, man? You know what I mean? No. They want to control the Ruach and they want to control soul and Ruach. You know how they say? We want to control soul and Ruach. They want to control both. You know how crazy that is? They want to control both. They want to control this world and your inner man. That's how wicked and evil and raw. Right? They want to cut down your tree in the Ruach, man. That's why Satan be attacking, right? And who grow in the growth of your trees and have passed from darkness to light. Because that's what we went from winter to summer. Behold, all your labors are fair. I don't know why we keep going, but he won't. They who work good works and turn from wickedness to your kindness. Now he says why he talks about the kind ones offer prayer at the acceptable time. They turn from wickedness to your kindness. They turn from it. They stop doing it. That's why I give you another chance. I know you ain't do it right. I know you ain't clean yourself right. I know you was clean under my dead body. Matter of fact, Cain, I know you killed your brother and everything. I know you slit his blood cry from the ground, but I want you. That's the reason why I did all this stuff. That's why I allowed your brother to die. That's why I allowed his blood to be shed. That's why I allowed his blood to cry from the ground. Because I knew your heart wasn't right. I knew you wasn't right when you offered anything to me. I knew your heart, your inner man was not perfect. And I already knew that. But understand, when I drove you out, when I garaged you, when I drove you out, understand, anybody who touched you, sevenfold will come to you. They better not touch you. Because I sent my son for you. Because everybody wasn't clean. Amazingly, the priest said in the second Chronicles, he said everybody wasn't clean, but who was the person that wasn't clean at Pesach? Remember, he said everybody said you clean your hand and your feet. He said everybody not here not clean. You know what Yahushua said? Who was the person that wasn't clean? Judas. Judas was the one that was not clean on the first Pesach that he took. And he was not purified properly. He hung himself too, remember? But for some reason, Yahuwah say, I want the person who hung himself. Here go a second Pesach. I know you ain't do it properly. I know you weren't clean. I know you ain't purify yourself according to what we said. I know you had evil in your heart and Satan was in your heart. I know you offered me up and you killed me. I know you sold me for 30 pieces of silver and you felt guilty. Just like Qahalath denied me 3 times and started weeping. I know you killed yourself, and I know Qahalath went home weeping. And I know you did that. I know y'all weren't properly done. But you know what I said? I want Judas too. I want the Judas as well. Yehuda. You know, the one who loved money more than he loved Yahuwah. He said, I want him too. So who are you to say anything? Now you see why Yahuwah is the way he is and why human beings are not. Right? This is verse 21. For they turned away themselves, let's say it says, verse 20, Odes of Solomon 11:20. We almost said, behold, all your labors are fair, they who work good works and turn from wickedness to your kindness. For they turned away from themselves the bitterness of the trees. Now you see why he told Adam and Qahalath, don't eat from that tree. The day you eat them, you're going to be bitter. He said bitter. You know what happens after that. When they were planted in your land, and everyone was like your remnant. Baraka are the workers of your water. The workers of your water. And the eternal memorial of your faithful servants. What happened? Indeed, there is much room in your paradise, and there is nothing in which is barren. Right? Nothing. But everything is filled with fruit. Everything. Praise be to you, O Elohim, the delight of paradise forever. Hallelujah. So we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at the Pesach lamb. We look at the Pesach sacrifice. We're looking for the innocent being that was sacrificed, the one that was hated by his Akim, his brothers, his Nashim, his bride, and his Ahmad. All the people didn't understand what he was doing. But no, even these 40 days that he is still here, even from the second month, we're only on the second day of the second month, only 15 days from the time that he appeared to his disciples. We understand there's a timeline. And in that timeline, there are many things that take place that give you a lot of conning in your life. A lot of grace, as they would say, in your life. And in that conning, that grace in your life, you're allowed to see how Yahuwah is great in compassion, forgiving sins, transgressions, and iniquities. But he will in no wise clear the guilty. Because after the first and second and third admonition, you know how Yahuwah is. He said the first time, and the second time, he appears in a vision or a dream in the night in EU 33. Yahuwah speaks in one way, yea twice, and even 3 times, and man perceiveth it not. But knowing that he may hide pride from men and may humble themselves, even as Yahushua Mashiach was Anu, and humbled himself as an Abad. For he said, I am your Abad, the son of your maidservant. So we look at the love and compassion that he gives, and the truth that will make you free. For he said he is honored with the lowly, and the lowly ones is where the ones who humble themselves, where he will get his honor. And the truth will make you free, right? It will make you free in the earth. It'll make you free in eternal life. It'll make you free in his eternal garden, where your trees will be planted and irrigated by celestial water. And that celestial water, your roots will attach to, and you will grow up to eternal life. And Yahuwah will exalt you in due time. But first you got to stay new and humble and get your roots in the ground, that it may be irrigated with eternal water. And that eternal water is by the Ruach Qahalath. For the meek, the Aydah shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the Eretz.